Happy Thursday, SMITE fans, and welcome back to a brand new phase of the SMITE Challenger Circuit. It's been a long time since we've been over here in the SCC, from the times we had them over in Masters, even just the regular season play. It's been a while, but we're happy to be back now with phase number 3. We're starting off in the European region and moving our way up over into North America as well. I'm J Max Hucker. Joining me on the desk, someone you probably haven't seen before as far as the desking is concerned, but you've seen the work that he's put in behind the scenes. I've got basically Billy joining me over on the desk. To help me out today, he's going to be helping out at least for a good bit of the weekend for the SCC stuff, joining me here today, and I think we're going to see him a little bit later this week as well.
Yeah, I'm casting today for some reason. Hindu was like, hey, you took Agro's casting class. I'm sure you'd be a great caster. So this is more so a shout out to Agro for, teaching me everything I know. When I fail spectacularly, you know who to blame. Other than that, you've not only seen my work production-wise, I'm behind the scenes. I do replays sometimes. I do the button pressing. I'm the voice inside the caster's head sometimes. But most importantly, I'm the 2019 NACE champion for Collegiate Smite. I am the 2020 AVGL champion for AVGL Smite. I am the 2021 AVGL champion for Smite and for Georgia State University. MVP 3 times in a row. Made it to finals 4 times. So I know what I'm talking about when it comes to Smite, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not cut me anywhere. I'm like, week 4 SOC top 8 team every time. That's where I peaked, SOC, the Smite Open circuit. I peaked there, really, if you think about it. And, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to get into some SCC action. I know a lot of these guys, played against them, played with them. And I'm excited to see how they do on this opening week of Phase 3, J-Mac.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Phase 3 is going to be a big one, an important one for all of these SCC teams. Remember, this is the road to Worlds for these guys as well. Better performances that they have out here, if I'm not mistaken, it's top 2 at the very end of it all, are going to be able to have their chance to fight against the SPL teams later on down the road to try and get their opportunity to make it to the World Championships. Before they do that, they've got to get through all of their competition within their own respective region. We can take a look at our schedule to see what kind of greatness that we have in store for you today and for the weekend ahead for the European region. Styx Ferrymen and Highland Ravens will be our first matchup with some tenured talent on both of those teams. Gilded Gladiators and Aru Scorpions. And then later on in the week, tomorrow, will be Hex Mambo and Niflheim Wargs facing off. And I think that this is going to be a very fun one. If you guys were sticking around at the earlier part of the segment, right before we actually jumped in here, we had a whole bunch of roster changes. Nearly, and I say nearly because it wasn't every single team, but nearly every team in the SEC has had some kind of roster change up, at least moving through from Phase 2 now into Phase 3. We can take at least a look at the rosters for Styx Ferrymen, Be Azrael, Ice, Hawk, Rotwind, Streak Up, Highland Ravens, Arcana, Adapting, Angry, Ice Silence, and Vaporish Coast. And we're going to talk a lot about those players and teams individually as we move a little bit further into our set. But these two teams are definitely teams that have players that have made their runs. We had Rotwind, who even came over for Hex Mambo during the LAN event and had a stellar performance with that squad, able to make it all the way into the top 8 for Smite Masters at that time. So I'm expecting some big things from both these teams, Billy.
Yeah, they have some great rosters, and if you were here earlier for that little pre-show segment, the EU rosters for the SEC kind of did that little do-si-do dance. All the players were in the SEC before. They have a lot of talent going in. Hawk, I think, is a talent in mid lane, really. He has some great plays. He was subbing, playing a little bit in the Phase 2 and Phase 1, I do believe. And coming into this Styx Ferrymen team, I think he's going to do some great work. But I think also this Styx Ferrymen roster, with Rotwind leading the charge coming off of that run with Hex Mambo, as you said, looking great. And pair that with Ice, there is some great experience and some great just headway going in for this team in terms of who's leading the charge.
Styx Ferrymen, if you look back towards Phase 1, we're a team that were kind of teetering right around that bottom middle of the pack. Phase 2, they started making a little bit more of a rise up, and now with these new players joining onto this roster, should be very interesting to see at least how the meta in the EU SCC has developed. We've got to see a little taste of the SPL so far. We know what the top end of play is going for, but over in EU, we always know these guys is a little bit slower of a play. Guys are going 25, 30 minutes with 4 to 5 kills maybe on the board, much more methodical in the regard, and as well as we also see a lot of different styles of picks, especially over in the mid lane, which is where I'm most curious to see how Hawk will kind of develop in this meta.
Yeah, something that is very notable when it comes to SCC matches is that despite the fact that this is the minor league for the SPL, the meta for the SCC tends to differ quite tremendously. Comfort picks, and in the EU specifically, you'll see picks you will never see in the SPL. We see Baba Yagas, we see Jormungandrs from Beazriel. They brought the tier kind of back into meta in terms of the Deathwalker playing it. Beazriel, also notable tier player. You see some highlights here from Baba Yaga. There's picks here that will kind of just define this slow pace, what goes well right now, such as like a Hades, a Kraken, things that can take time to develop, will probably be the highlight of the picks and bans phase for these two teams going into it. But I think realistically these EU teams are going to be looking for later games, you know, develop the builds, develop the power, and go late game. Baba Yaga's stacking items, stuff like that. Yeah. Essentially just going for that big power spike, take the games as slow as possible, because hey, minimal mistakes means precision play, precision power play coming in from all of these teams. And going forward, I think the Styx Ferrymen are really favored in this meta.
Yeah, Styx Ferrymen definitely want to play a little bit later, but if there's any kind of teams out there, you know, whenever you talk about the EU style, much longer versus the more like the North American, the brawl, the want to scrap early, when you look across the board at the Highland Ravens, one player in particular on there stands out to me, Adapting, made his way back into the SCC last phase, and nearly every single team that Adapting has made his way onto for the SCC has been that earlier game style of play. He is one to lead his team in order to try and scrap in the starting startups, at least of these matchups. He's one to get active, playing gods like the Wheelish, playing gods like Thor, trying to get in your face and active as early as possible so that they don't have to drag to the late. But that's also where the EU shines. They've all got their tenure towards that later stage.
Yeah, something that Adapting does tend to favor towards is picks that do well early in that early game fight, getting mid prio, getting mid pressure, switching that over to solo lane as he needs to. The Thanatos, I'm thinking Thor, I'm thinking Fenrir. Easy damage to confirm if you can hit your skill shots, do the damage. That's how it works in this game. And Adapting does that really well. He has picks that prioritize getting pressure in lanes, assisting the side lanes, and kind of not necessarily foregoing his own jungle, but pressuring out into the lanes as a focus. And realistically, if you try to do something late game scaling into this, it's going to bite you pretty bad if you don't play it too passive.
Definitely want to make sure that you're paying attention to all the players on both of these teams really out there. Like we said, Azriel, Ice Ice, Hawk, Rotwin, Streak Up for the roster over for Styx Ferrymen, and then behind Adapting, Kana, Angry, Silence, and Coast. And Angry, I think in the mid lane has been the player I've been watching the most in the EU SCC as the last couple of years have gone through. It's a player where you look back almost 2 years ago and nobody was really saying Angry's name. Nobody really knew who this guy was, and nobody was really putting the respect on him. But now he's become a top player within his role, and definitely a name you need to look out for. And we're going to take a look into the picks and bans for game number 1 between Styx Ferrymen and the Highland Ravens coming up here in just a moment to kind of see where this EU meta is developing up. Are we going to be seeing a lot of what we saw in the SPL? You know, we saw a lot of Hades solo pop up with the popularity of Bancross Claw. We were seeing Vulcan specifically in the mid lane was a very popular pick over in the SPL. I'm curious if the EU teams will bring those gods out as well.
I think Hades, if it's not going to be banned out, you can see the respect ban going straight to tier right away, as it should for the EU teams. Lots of people are playing it, and it's kind of the Heimdall effect, as Heimdall also gets banned. When one player has a very good god in one position, say it's the Heimdall, I believe it was E-Chrome's pick, every ADC had to learn Heimdall to get to that level. Heimdall is a priority ban and pick for every EU team right now. So realistically, what does that transfer to that's in the meta? I think Hades, number 1. It's going to be picked. It's going to be banned eventually in this set. I think Kraken could be up there, and I think Baba Yaga too also has that potential priority here. But realistically, what we're looking forward to is isolating one lane right now if you're either team, and kind of just building off of that based on this meta. How's that going to develop and how that's going to essentially scale.
I bring the light itself.
As far as the first bans are concerned, looking through right away, Tierdaji, Yamoja, and then Yuhuang, Terra, and Heimdall. The Yuhuang may be the most interesting out of all of those first bans. It's not really a mid laner that kind of sticks out to me as being needing to take away early, but we definitely have seen the power level he has in the first few levels of the game, and then once he gets 3rd, 4th item online, the damage output this guy can have. But it will be Khepri and Nemesis are going to be the first 2 pickups there. Khepri over for the Ravens. The Styx Ferrymen will grab it, Nemesis and Hades.
There we go.
There we have that first solo lane pickup right away.
I'll be honest, you pick Hades. little bit of cringe. Lifesteal, it's easy to build against, but if you're just
I
able
lead
to
us
go
to
in
glory,
lane, silence,
to victory!
kill off the wave, you can go from like 5% HP to 100% and 2 uses of one ability. It's a little silly, and I'm Billy. Makes sense.
Baba Yaga.
But going forward, I think the Khepri first pick is very interesting from the Ravens here from Rotwin. He looks good on pretty much any support you can pick, but prioritizing that first means you're kind of setting yourself up for getting focused out. The Nemesis is going to be a hard counter to you. You don't have any reason to
I
on that.
fear
Hades
no
ult is going to be something that you're not going to, it's going to be a real pillar of agony as you can't escape from it. Ganesh is also a very solid lane opponent for the Khepri. We're building around that here on the Ravens with the King Arthur, the Baba Yaga. We're building a very strong front line and a late scaling back line with this Baba Yaga right now is what I'm looking at for the Ravens. That seems how they're going to want to play. While the Styx Ferrymen, kind of a switch of the old, boot. I don't know what the phrase is, dude. I don't talk for a living. The Nemesis, the Hades, the Ganesha, it's building a very solid go in, take the fight, and keep walking it down.
Yeah, for sure. And as we jump into the next round of bans, Pele and Hunbats taken away with Cupid and Chernobog on the opposite side. Cupid has been a menace in the duo lane, at least for the last few weeks of competitive play, to say the least. Obviously, it's been a bit of a break since we came back into competitive. We just jumped into the SPL last week, and now jumping back into the SCC. So AMC locked in, still making sure that he rounds out the top of the charts for the potential mid lane hunters, at least thrown out there. But I think this Ho Yi that's kind of been popping up is a little curious to me. What makes Ho Yi kind of seem like this real popular pick to go to so far, Billy?
So Ho Yi is pretty popular because mainly he offers something that not a lot of hunters really offer, and that's kind of just controlling zones. His ultimate's very scary. His 2-1 combo, stunning off of walls, means you have to really watch where you stand just in general right now. AMC is an ADC that is very standard ground. I'm going to stand here, auto-attack you, throw some honey, throw some bees, but I'm not backing up because if I back up, I die. Ho Yi can force him to back up pretty much, and that's why it's very popular into the AMC at least. That's why it's very popular into things that, need to have their own space, and something that needs to have their own space. A Freya being picked.
Wow.
I'm assuming ADC, we got the AMC mid, so we have Freya in the duo lane for the Styx Ferrymen, and we never even got to mention, Adapting has picked Thor.
That's a classic for Adapting.
That is a classic. That is a season 1, I believe.
Oh, 100%.
I was like 12 when that dude was going crazy on Thor, dude. That's insane. I'm feeling the Ravens draft right now. They have a great amount of zone control between the Khepri, the King Arthur, the Baba Yaga means that their backline is going to be doing insane amounts of damage. So you just need a little bit of space, throw out some potions, some unruly magic, and you will get going in that DPS department. But on the other end, Styx Ferrymen, they have some great chase, some great boxing potential, and I think it's going to be a real slugfest in any lane that they decide to fight in.
Yeah, some good early and some good late game across the board for both these teams, but what it's going to come down to is the actual play on field. We're ready to jump into game number 1 between the Highland Ravens and the Styx Ferrymen to kick off the EU SCC Phase 3, Day 1, and game number 1 between some of the best players that the European region has to offer out there, and it will be at least the AMC going into the mid lane as you were talking out there. Really no surprise when we see a Freya. It's not very often that we see Freya kind of flex her way into any other role. If you're just now tuning in, it's J-Mac and Billy joining me over here on the desk for our first SCC set of the new phase. I believe we've got Doug, who's going to be running the spectator for us on that regard. And looking at the Freya, we've been seeing kind of a development in some of the magical ADC builds with, the nimble glyph moving away from Rana Tahuti over to Bancrofts. We've been seeing some of the rise of lifesteal in that regard. Do you think that we'll see kind of a change up in that Freya build because of things like that?
So Freya's very strong in the ADC duo lane. When you can build Conduit Gem, it makes her pulse, her wave clear, very hard to just kind of match up against in lane. It will bully you out. Essentially what it does is you wait some time, a few seconds, up to 20, and you gain more power on your attacks. It'll pretty much every time that she has pulse up is when that's going to be doing a ton of damage to the wave. The AoE is going to be doing more damage, and it's going to be hard to wave clear against. That's something that's really developing for her at least, but I do think the lifesteal, just because of her passive alone, is going to be something she builds into, even though, as you said, Nimble Claw is kind of on the downtick. Lifesteal in itself is not very, nerfed at all. Realistically, Bancroft's Claw is even stronger than it was before. HP shields. What is a bit dangerous, however, for the Styx Ferrymen is you do have the Freya. Assuming you're building Lifesteal, you also have a Hades. That's already a lot of healing. Anti-heal is going to be just a strong counter against you.
Dive in by Coast and Silence. Won't get too much. Streak Up and Rotwin able to get back to the safety of their tower. Bakana's going to need a little bit of extra help. Dash in by Ice, dash in by Azriel. Not enough damage, though, from the Hades coming through to find that first kill. But at least some early pressure put on this King Arthur. Noticing going up into the Hades. Hasn't gone towards a normal defense item, to say the least. Has instead gone towards just a little bit more HP with this Glowing Emerald.
Oh, it makes me so happy when the cringe ganker fails. Take that, Ice. You deserve every single piece of that lost XP you just had suffered because of rotating. It is so cringe. And now they're fighting. What are junglers doing, dude? This is crazy. It's just, I'm the better jungler. Look at me. I can cringe gank. I'm fighting at mids. Look at me. It's auto attacks, dude. Neither of you are dying.
Dash in, hammer spin. Adapting's got to throw his hammer to get out, though, because he's not winning that trade. In a beads burn by Hawk. Of all the gods to burn a beads this early on, it will be the AMC. And that puts Adapting in a curious predicament now as he rotates in. Doesn't steal away the big heartbeat from Ice, but he will grab both sets of smalls at the very least. So some of that XP lost on the right side during the gank, at least made up by Ice there.
Yeah, so something to note is that both teams did this start where the jungler and the mid laner started at red buff, they go to speed buff, the mid laner will then walk to mid lane while the jungler will clear out the back camps, go over to solo lane and either do the cringe gank such as Ice, or they will focus more on getting that little Chad Harpy on the side right up top of the blue buff. That is what Adapting went for. And because of that, the trade out for XP, realistically, it's what pressure we're looking for here as Hawk is pressuring out on this red buff. I think this potion should just secure it, and it should be pretty free for Angry, but this is just a show of, like, aggression, dominance, a real sign from Hawk that, you know, he needs business here with this AMC.
Yeah, players like Hawk and Joshi have been doing this quite a bit, especially when you think when Soul was kind of the meta, running the Mannequin Scepter in that mid lane as well. We were seeing that quite often where these first respawns of red buffs or these second respawns is where we're seeing these little 1v1 attempts. But once these level 5s hit, it won't be nearly as safe for players like Hawk. AMC very immobile. And when you get a player like Adapting on a semi-global god like Thor, it makes for a nice and easy rotation for the jungler to come in.
Yeah, and something that the Highland Ravens are going to be looking for is this level 5 with Thor. Obviously, you gain a lot more range when he gets his ult. It's a semi-global, and the power that it can present in either lane just by walking into the left lane, you could do oracles, decide, hey, I'm going to ult, and dual lane is scared, mid lane is scared. They don't know where you're going. AMC, as I said before during picks and mins, stand your ground, because when he backs up, when he retreats, he is either retreating or he is going to die. And Thor is a very good pick into that. However, the ultimate that does counter this, that does allow that ability to present itself, means that there's a cooldown that the Styx Ferrymen are going to be playing around, and it is about 90 seconds, give or take a few, depending on what cooldown that Adapting goes for. It looks like a Transcendence first as he goes up, and we'll see where he lands.
Dunk onto Ice, catches at least one part of the dash, not the second. Wall goes out, but it's a hammer out by Adapting instead. The full HP AMC, just enough to put some threat onto Angry and Adapting. That will stop the potential first blood for going over to the Highland Ravens. And do you imagine for Adapting on this Thor, you're looking across the board and you see no beads for Ice, he's gone blink early. Do you think that's going to be his primary target for the first at least 12 levels of the game?
For a good bit of the game, yes. Realistically, if this were a ranked game, I would say catching Nemesis dash out like that is pretty lucky. It's Adapting 100% intentional. If you can consistently provide that on every single Thor ultimate, it is going to be very rough for Ice before level 12.
Fight potentially around the blue. Nope, it's just going to be some smalls taken. Instead, back over towards the totem, with Silence making a rotation over. So blue will at least go over to the Highland Ravens. Gold XP pretty even at this stage of the game because no first blood went through, and gold has been pretty split nicely between the two teams, and it will be stacking for quite a few of the members there. We already see Azriel working towards his Warlock staff, Angry, the same regard out there. So I imagine a very early, slow pace for both these teams with how many stacks are coming through.
Yeah, Warlocks is just very strong right now for 10% penetration, getting a lot of life, so it's seen well by mid laners and solo laners alike. Hades is going to love it. I'm assuming after this Warlocks that he's going to be building up, he's going straight into a Bancrofts, get some lifesteal, and just be kind of unkillable in lane. Because minions are there, he's going to be able to lifesteal off of anything. Stacking in general is just very easy for Baba Yaga. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Transcendence on any jungler, really, just because it does take 50 stacks to get on. If you're playing jungle, you have, what, camps of 3, camps of 2 every now and again, and it's a little hard. It takes a little longer to get on stacked, get full use out of the item itself. And so realistically, it is going to be hard for Adapting to kind of make those early pressure plays against a Nemesis that just built Jotun's Wrath in the first slot. Giving that 20% cooldown reduction is going to be very strong for just slamming those slice and dices, slamming those dashes, and doing well in lane.
So maybe a shorter startup time for the Ravens, but it doesn't mean that we can't see Adapting try and get early and aggressive like he did earlier on. I mean, right when he hit level 5, trying to make that play in mid. But as we start approaching level 7, at least for Adapting, he will be a little bit behind compared to Ice. He's sitting level 6, Adapting is, at least compared to his opposing jungler. But over in the solo lane, it's a little bit of a different story. Typically, we think of Hades kind of being that early bully, getting that very early lead in lane. But at least for now, in these first few minutes, it has been kind of getting the better end of XP.
That is true, and because King Arthur is King Arthur, he just gets more abilities than Hades. When you don't go straight into lifesteal, it's harder to kind of have the lane presence. However, this Warlock Staff is finished, or Sash, excuse me. The Warlock Sash is finished, so it's going to be easy for him to be stacking. It's going to be easy for him to just have more HP to tank up and deal more damage. Similar to how this mid fight is going. Lots of damage, little result, getting the XP here for the Highland Ravens as they take those mid camps. And it's kind of going to be a game like this, I do believe, for a good little bit. Kind of controlling neutral farm is the only way you're going to get a lead in this type of game. It's slow-paced, it's very minute mistakes is what's going to cost you. If you miss a mid-camp, if you miss a wave or so, you're going to be down, and that could be what, you know, leads to your defeat in the end of the day.
Actually, something that does bring up at least a decent point up against the Styx Ferrymen is you do have this Thor with a wall, and there's only a couple of players who are really able to deal with that. Azrael does have a dash to get under it if he needs to find his way to path out. Rodwin can go through it with his dash, but he's got to expend that mobility to get there, and then obviously Streaka would have to use his ultimate to get by. So how dangerous does this Thor wall then become for Styx Ferrymen as we start moving in towards these jungle fights and these jungle corridors later on in the game?
So the Thor wall itself, it's a wall. It will stop your movement. As you said, Ganesha being the support for the Styx Ferrymen means that their peel is going to be very oriented based off of how he silences and who he grabs. He can't be expending that grab, the Ganesha dash, which can go through player-made walls. Fun fact, if you didn't know, he can dash through the Thor wall, but he's not going to have a dash to knock Thor up. Realistically, what should be happening for the Styx Ferryman is trying to bait Adapting in, try and get him to do a poor landing with a Thor ult, miss someone, or go on a tank target that can kind of take up that damage, and then CC him out of it. I think the play that they're going for is to bait in a Thor wall, bait in a Thor ult, Thor hammer, use that AMC ultimate, the Stinger, to cripple him. He can't get out with his hammer. He'll have to ult out. They force the ult out early. Boom, pick up the Stinger, and then that's going to be that on cooldown.
Bede's gone by Hawk. Bede's gone by Adapting as the Dharmic Pillars were dropped out there. Rotwin will be fine. The rest of the Highland Ravens sing to the back, but that is 2 sets of beads burned off of the Ravens team in that fight for only 1 set of beads on the opposite end. Hawk will lose that, so it's going to make this AMC very susceptible to Adapting's next rotation in if they decide to go for it. The Highland Ravens are falling a little bit behind. No first blood has gone through, but it's about 300-400 gold difference separating these two teams. Same around the XP. Not anything massive. 10 minutes in, and only a couple hundred gold in XP is essentially, you know, nothing at this point. It's monopoly money to them at this point of the game. But I'm curious to see at least where Adapting is going to put that pressure. Does he continue to put his focus on Hawk and Ice? Does Coast find the solo kill on the Streak Up?
Oh, no.
Drops the Suns, but Streak Up sidesteps those Suns and will be just fine.
Had the sun in his eyes when he was casting that out, looked like kind of off target. Realistically, even if Vaporish Coast puts that in the center of Streak Up's player model, it's going to be fine. Freya just ults out of it, goes up to the skies. I think that's what he was looking to burn. A misplace of the ultimate means he won't get that. He loses his Suns, and early game, that's not too bad. of an ability to go on cooldown. We're looking around Gold Fury. We have been kind of posturing around it for a good little bit, so it'll be interesting to see how that correlation goes with the Gold Fury pull. I don't think they'll be pulling it just yet, but Vaporware Coast does have that fully stacked trends. I do believe he'll be backing for something around Executioner Tree, maybe an Aussie, get some more attack speed, and then we'll look to pull it. But this is a very slow-paced game already, 10:40 in, no kills, and I realistically think that the Styx Ferrymen are playing this to perfection right now, right? They have the Ganesha who went the Thebes, so it's going to take a while to stack that up, 50 stacks. Look on the other side, the Khepri hasn't been able to get any use out of those earrings. The Manticore spikes, if you will, are an earring. A little pressure in mid goes pretty well for him. And oh, see, that's what I like. That's what I like. The Thor ultimate has to get forced out. Otherwise, he gets stingered. The hammer is down. He can't escape if he gets stingered there. And then the damage following that will just burst him down to 0. Adapting, very smart. That ult was necessary, but that is so good for the Styx Ferrymen. They pick up the AMC ult. You can see it goes on 15 seconds cooldown, I think, at this point of the game. So it's a very short pickup. Place it again. And that Thor ult, not the same treatment.
John to silence. The whoop and the knockup is good. About a third HP off the Khepri. Coast going back in, drops the Suns, but I don't think they realize that it's now a 3v2. Dive bomb out and a Dharmic Pillar. Rotwin is going to be able to at least stop Silence from going anywhere. Knocked up and knocked down. Ice going to put up first blood for the Styx Ferrymen and the first kill in Phase 3 of the EU SCC.
There we go, baby. We're getting something cooking in the kitchen, and it looks like a side of Gold Fury might be on the scope of Vaporish Coast, protecting his purple buff as he should. He has that Indra Scepter, so it will be a little easier for him to take it. There should be a bit of a kerfuffle around here, but Angry is looking around the corner with some pretty nasty potions.
Does have decent damage. Rotwin sitting at about a third HP of his own. Not going to stick around. But 4 of the Ferrymen nearby, essentially a double hunter. They are melting through the health bar of the Gold Fury. No answer back from the Highland Ravens. And Styx Ferrymen, not only do they grab their first blood, they pick up the Gold Fury. And look at that spike in gold. 1,700 now. The Styx Ferrymen have pulled ahead in just a matter of minutes.
Yeah, really smart by both teams. The Styx Ferrymen noticed, hey, we killed their tank. They don't have any pressure to posture and step up to this Gold Fury. And Highland Ravens are like, hey, we're better just getting farm instead of trying to contest this. However, the quick turnaround means that they get a good Pyromancer because of that solo laner swing. Beazriel did go back to base, so he was kind of forfeiting pressure in that lane. If you get Gold Fury, I am so fine giving up Pyromancer every single day of the week. It is a good trade for the Ravens, but it is by no means a deficit for the Styx Ferrymen at this point in the game.
That should be fine for them. And as we take a look at these teams, Azrael will at least show off what some of that extra lifesteal can do with that Bancroft's Claw, healing himself back up, and then kind of poking a lot of that right back down. But as we kind of take this slower approach to the early game and definitely look towards the more late slanted style of composition, does that favor the Styx Ferrymen? I mean, you're looking at a Freya, an AMC, a Hades. We've seen what that can do. So for the Ferrymen, if they're playing slow and going to late game, does that favor them more than the Ravens?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Styx, this roster of gods, I guess, is scaled to go late game, right? Like, you pick every single one of these gods besides Ganesha, I guess, because, hey, we will own late game. Nemesis will go absolutely crazy. I think Nemesis right now in its current state is very strong, even going mid game, right? Because the ultimate, being able to shred protection, sticking to people, autoing, boom, boom, auto, cancel, shield, dash through, all that mumbo jumbo is going to lead for a lot of damage, and it looks like it might be coming for Coast, but we're going to go ahead and settle for a purple buff as a matter of fact. And the mobility really is what Nemesis can really just do. Mobility, auto attacks, canceling, scales really well into the late game. Streak Up is going to take a bit of damage, but I do believe it's going to get turned around by this Freya. Also does a ton of damage, as you can see right now. Adapting Force to hammer out. And this is just the pressure that Ice can put here with this Nemesis. He's a little bit ahead, and he's taking a lot of bite out with this little bit.
Ultimate onto Silenced. Not even enough to burn the shield away from the Khepri at this point through. Shield for Ice will get him a little bit of health back up. Vaporish Coast will be able to at least proc that ultimate right back. Nice use of the enemy Dharmic Pillars to bring himself back to life. And luckily for him, he had a couple of teammates to help him out because the Hades ultimate in from Azrael doing a lot to silence him. With that res down, could be a perfect target. But now Azrael turned on the stun. The roots are good. The damage out. And Ice as well, dashing away. Kana running through the pack line, but not going to find anything quite yet.
Did not bring your ADC to an ADC fight, my friends. Styx Ferrymen thankfully getting out of that with no casualties. Streak Up is pushing the lane, and realistically, this is what Freya's a bit better at doing, pushing out, pressuring lane, because of the rotation ability of her is very weak. She can get caught out in the jungle, not have a cooldown or something, and get absolutely blown to bits. So sticking to that lane is a bit safer, and the Styx Ferrymen play that really well of not fully committing, disengaging when they realize the Hoey is here. While there's no ultimates, there's a lot of kill potential here through this build. Executioner, the Transcendence, auto attacks are still hitting for a lot, even if a Porsche Coast isn't having the pressure that the Freya is providing out on that duo lane side. It's still very scary, and even if you don't have the same amount of numbers in a team fight, it's usually not too smart to take.
Well, as we kind of take a look at the relics, which we may have to hold on to for a moment, because Ice does find the ult on a Porsche Coast. Nice double bounce. We'll deal some damage to Nemesis with the sun's raining. Porsche Coast will be out. The rest of the rotation in from the Ravens. The silence is down. Rotwin pulled back, stunned out, and hit with the double tap, and will be forced to use his own pillars to use as an escape path. But going back kind of to the relics I want to talk about specifically for Rotwin, Bracer and Frenzy picked up, but not the Frenzy that we're so accustomed to seeing. Adapting will be out for now. Angry just going to make sure to zone away. The rest of the team pushing in. But tell me a little bit about this Belt of Insatiable Hunger, because typically we'd saw Belt of the Berserker kind of be the more popular of the two for such a long time.
So, the Belt of Insatiable Hunger. Oh my goodness, that is absolutely a devastating name from itself. So, essentially, Frenzy, but when you get a kill, when you get an assist, it'll refresh, right? And I like it. I don't dislike it. I do personally prefer Berserker more, mainly because it can provide more consistent damage. If you pop it, you are committing to this fight, right? You need to get these procs to keep this fight in your favor. I really do like Bracer. I'm a little excited to see which tier 3 he goes into, but as you said, this Frenzy hasn't been picked up too often, but I really do like it. We have the Nemesis sticking to targets. We have the AMC, insane auto attack damage. I mean, Freya, the same thing, but magical, right? There's going to be a lot of late game scaling damage. This insatiable hunger that the Styx Ferrymen are going to be having for this bloodlust in the fight is going to be absolutely incredible. Massive damage numbers. I'm very excited to see how well it gets popped, but you need to be just smart with it, right? It can be used to burn objectives, sure, but it's best used in team fights. So Rotwin's going to have to be really on top of when he pops it.
That's real spots out Kana, who made a rotation towards mid. Once these solo laners leave their lane and start coming towards the middle of the map, towards the left side, you know that Gold Fury is at least in the eye of interest for those teams. With both solo laners here, we could be seeing a full 5v5 team fight to break out for one of these objectives. Decent bit of poke thrown over towards Rotwin between Angry and Adapting teaming up there. Decent CC out of Silence. For the time, both these teams just kind of biding away. And an item that kind of really caught my interest, more so than the Frenzy pickup, at least for Rotwin, is the fact that Hawk picked up a Runeforged hammer over on the AMC.
Oh yeah, baby, we're going to Runeforged AMC. You can see its damage right here on the Gold Fear, but it looks like the fight is going to break out beforehand, but we're using ultimates. It's a big fight here from the Highland Ravens. They're going to try and see what they can get out of the Styx Ferrymen without committing to this Oni Fury. A very smart play. They got the Freya ultimate, they got the Ganesha ultimate, and guess what? Gold Fury is happy and healthy right now. It's baiting in and seeing what we can get caught. Azriel tried to catch out Adapting, but oh, he is suffering for it.
Don't know about that. He's got a lot of healing to keep himself alive. Adapting had to use Aegis and Beads to get out of that Pillar of Agony. Azriel sitting about half HP. Rotwin finds the dash on a Silenced, and a Silence coming out from Rotwin. Sun's rain down. Rotwin stuck in the middle, and another Sun will take him down. Porsche Coast puts his team on the board, and Kana adds a second one to the books of the Highland Ravens nearly 20 minutes in, and finally the Ravens are fighting back and getting some names to themselves.
Yeah, it was a very well done fight on two fronts, right? That was very split between the Gold Fear fight and what was happening in that middle lane. The Forest Coast doing some amazing work with these auto attacks, getting some great damage out. The kin size executioner combo means anyone he auto attacks is going to be taking chunks and chunks and chunks of HP while reducing their prots at the same time. So those chunks turn into bigger chunks. It's, you know, like me eating a pizza. I'm going to keep going more and more and more and more until I'm too full. And it looks like he's going to end his dessert with a little bit of Oni Fury.
Fury started, but dropped once again. A whoop onto Angry gets the Aegis away from the mid laner. Bede's still available, and Kana walking forward. Oni Fury going to get pulled once again as Ice Ice rotates in. Not going to go around and loop in. Wall down from adapting, ult down from Ice Ice. Oni Fury still committed, will finally be leashed, and it's going to be Ice Ice at the front. Double whoop is good. That's going to get the beats from Kana, and Silence about to use the ult on himself to get the revive. Now he's stuck in the middle. Can he find his way out? Yes, he will. Duncan from adapting finds a couple of big wallets in the back, and a hammer will help take down two as his mid laner and his hunter have picked up one. Azrael finds four in the Pillar of Agony, finds the kill onto one, but ends up dying as he dashed in and missed his target.
Oh, that is every Hades dream, getting the massive ultimate, but Azrael, two of your teammates are dead, and the other two are in a different zip code. They have left the station. Realistically, I really like that play from Azrael. He decides, hey, this is my opening. This is my time to shine. I'm going to do it. He gets 4 people. Gets a nice few sets of beads on his way out, and he reduces HP to everyone. But that's the thing. He reduces the HP. He doesn't get more than 1 kill, which is very, very unfortunate. Anyone's with him, they can wrap up that kill in Ice Silence. And when you're playing against a Kepri, you have to be very smart about when you're going in. I really like what Ice Ice is doing, right? What he's doing is he's ultimating at the start before he goes in, so he can strip the ADC, the support and the solo laner of their protections before he goes in. He can be a little bit tankier when he decides to attack the front line. That's what he's doing, stripping and slowing the protections from the solo lane or whatever tank that's in front of him. That's why he's kind of ultimating just off rip, right? And that's setting his team up pretty well to just pick a target. But if that target is, say, a Kepri, cleanses himself, heals himself, has that Mail of Renewal, so he's very healthy, unlike Vaporish Coast. Oh my goodness, hello late game Freya. The Kepri is going to be very healthy, and that shouldn't really be the target going forward, I think.
Striggup's got all 4 rings online. We'll see where he goes for his final item. We've seen Rod's Hooties in the past. We've seen things like the Bancroft's Talon. Even Typhon's Fang, if you want to go for maybe for a little bit more lifesteal. Could go for some pen, so we'll keep our eyes on Striggup's build to see how he kind of rounds that one out. But as we're approaching the 22, 23 minute mark, and despite the fact that the Highland Ravens did get that Oni Fury a moment ago and won the fight pretty handedly as well, the gold NXP sitting pretty even, at least at this stage of the game. 700 for the XP, 200. Add a little bit more, at least for the gold. Now the Ravens can finally get that lead back for themselves. But look at the climb they've had to make on that charts to get to that point.
Yeah, that's really just a testament to how well that kind of mid to early game swing started for the Styx Ferrymen. They were on top of neutrals. They were splitting almost every enemy back camp. They were getting in there for that neutral to realistically enemy farm. They were getting in there and setting themselves up to scale into this late game. And they might be suffering now, and this isn't late game. Right, this is not level 20. This is not full build. The Freya sure hit level 20, not full build. The AMC 19 about to hit 20. During teams like comps like this, late game's going to hit around 25 at the earliest, 28 at the latest. Before EFG is really where we're going to see this game go if the Styx Ferrymen are going to see success. But Highland Ravens looking to pressure out what they have right now. Their tanks are probably in their prime. This King Arthur, this Kepri. Hard to kill, hard to damage, hard to even just like stick to right now. Unless your Nemesis ulting them, they're pretty much like free to walk away, do damage, initiate on this Freya, on this AMC. Ganesha can only peel so much. Hades isn't a peel-oriented god. Hades is going in. He's a mage, and we're seeing some of this fight break out right now.
Stun on Rotwin. Potion toss as well is good to start the fight, but not get a whole lot of poke onto the enemy support just yet. Azrael clearing out his blue buff on the opposite side of the map. He is not there. Meanwhile, Kana is around the left, but with that Fury down and a Pyromancer, there's no real objective for these teams to go for just yet. So maybe trying to find an early pick to set up for Fire Giant. They're not going to find any of that early damage that they need to kind of get these going. But if you're the Highland Ravens, do you have the means to be able to kind of pull a Fire Giant dance to stand around and really force the Ferrymen to kind of stick towards this right side of the map?
Right now, I would say no. I would not start a Fire Dance just yet, mainly because if you look at the level differences, it's on the Khepri. He is going to be hard to kill, hard to do anything, yes, but the engage is kind of either going to be reliant on adapting or counter-engaging off of a bad engage from Styx Ferrymen. So realistically, right now, get up these neutrals and finish your builds, finish your farm, hit level 20, and either wait for the counter-engage or find a pick. And yeah, this is the SCC, but it's going to be a lot harder than finding just like a normal pick in your average rank game.
Start the dance for the Styx Ferrymen around Fire. But all the Highland Raven members are here. All the Styx Ferrymen are here. Well, except for Rotwind and Silence. They'll go back to base to get themselves a nice little reset before we move on. Grab some wards in their pockets. That way they can try and get some control around that Fire Giant pit at the very least. So 25 in, 7 kills on the board. Dead even in the gold, only about a level one way or the other as far as XP is concerned. 1 down for Silence, as you mentioned earlier. 1 down for Ice compared to adapting. And a Protector of the Jungle, if I'm not mistaken, picked up for adapting there as well. Means he's going to have a little bit of extra power whenever it comes to these jungle fights.
And protections, keep in mind, it does a little bit of both. Fire Giant is picked up again by Styx Ferrymen, and the Frenzy is popped. This is a full-on commit.
That's a commit. Suns, though, from Vaporish Coast might have just been all they needed. A Duncan from adapting does find one in the back line, but he's immediately going to have to jump himself on out. Streak up, jumped on by Coast. And Azrael goes in the back to find a couple, use the Pillar of Agony on his own, and it's not getting a whole lot of damage out. Instead, it's a lot returned right back to him. Kana, teamed up with Coast, will take down the solo laner, and it was a basic attack from Vaporish Coast that stole the Fire Giant away, and now it's around the waist of all 5 of the Ravens.
And here's the gas pedal for the Highland Ravens. They're up huge off of that Fire Giant steal, which I am going to call it because it was a steal. That's just a testament to sticking around Fire Giant and making sure you have vision on it at all times, because if Vaporish Coast was not there, this game goes completely differently. But realistically, they have a Trebuchet in lane, they have minion waves coming downtown. I don't think they're going to go for anything too serious to end the game right now on the Ravens side. They have a lot of gold to spend off of neutral farm that they were getting beforehand. Stealing the Fire Giant gives you a good bit. They just got a tower, a Phoenix, no big deal, just like a small loan of a few thousand gold or so. They're going to spend that. They're going to walk down. They have 2 tier 1s still up for the Styx Ferrymen, which is a little crazy, but it's like, there are a few autos, and you kill them, you get it, you get the gold. They're going to be probably pressuring out both of those lanes, looking for a pick in the meantime. And this is really smart from the Styx Ferrymen. I think if they pull the gold fear right now, they will get it without any contention. They just need to stay as 5, stay grouped, get this gold, and back out. Do not get caught, or you will die. Ice is looking a little greedy here for these Oreos, but he'll get them. It's fine. Styx Ferrymen are realistically looking to scale up, finish the builds, be as ahead as you can, because you need to defend these birds desperately.
1 already down. It opens up the base and leaves the Titan vulnerable. But by picking up that Gold Fear, you do see a small little buff picked up. If you remember the old Draugr from seasons past, the little buff that it gave whenever you stand inside the tower, it gives you some extra protections, at least for your structure. So Styx Ferrymen will have that to maybe at least deter the Phoenixes. But all towers in mid are down, with minion wave on its way for Highland Ravens. They can go ahead and push down this tier 1 with no contest, and tier 2, maybe a defense put up here by the Ferrymen.
Yeah, I am not against this because it's a bit easier to defend this tier 2 than it is the Phoenix. The reason why is if you lose the Phoenix, you are probably losing this game. You can get up this tier 2 at any time. The only issue I have is that the Highland Ravens don't have incredible first off engage. If Thor uses his ult, that is it. That is all their distance. They won't be able to chase, and Styx Ferrymen can walk away, so they're going to have to play counter-engage.
Ult by Azrael and ult by Ice, but the root sprint comes out to hold them out. In the sky is adapting, dunks into the back, finds 2, and picks off 1. Beads and Aegis burned away, and the Khepri Rez on top. Adapting can dive in all he wants, because he's going to be right back to life by the help of his support. 2 down for Styx Ferrymen, and the Highland Ravens can keep their push up at this tier 2 tower.
brilliant play by adapting. He did it somewhat similarly at the Fire Giant fight earlier, is that he waited for movement to be expended. He waited for abilities to be used before he commits the ultimate into the backline. Landed on 2, gets a kill on Ice, and this Phoenix should be pretty free at the end of it all.
Kana can tank this one up. Minion wave coming in right behind, so this Phoenix will not stand for much longer, especially when they've got their carry standing by. Vapor's Coast will help drop that left side bird, the most important one when you want to go for a second Fire Giant, as that's only got a few seconds left. And they might even just be able to add one more with this mid bird, as they'll walk in towards it. Rotwin at the front line does get stunned out. Dharmic Pillars drop 3 stuck inside, and 1 down. Silence that's too far forward, but it will be a trade out. Both supports gone. Mid lane Phoenix still stands.
Not too bad of a trade out, but realistically, that play itself was just way too greedy from it all. It's, you know, just you got your Phoenix. Why do you want a second one? You're not going to get it for free. Abilities came back up for the Styx Ferrymen. They were able to defend it pretty well. Sure, Rotwin died for it, but he got an assist off of it, making him 0-3-3. He's still a level up, so first off, a testament to his great farming techniques as the Ganesha. He gets a good more XP than anyone else if you're playing a good support game. But he also gets that assist onto another support kill, which is fine. Just more experience, more gold his way is going to make sure that he can actually defend. This Fire Giant is what the Styx Ferrymen are probably going to do. They have enough damage to get rid of it by themselves if they want to engage. They have enough damage to fight. They just need the front line to be there, and they need to be present. That's what's most important here at this Fire Giant if they want it.
Fire Giant crashes in just another second or two. The Highland Ravens are already in position to start this one up. With left Phoenix down, Fire Minions are going to start pouring in towards that left side. You can see that first wave has already crossed the line of what used to be the Tier 2. So somebody might have to go back and defend after too long. Adapting gets caught out though. No beads and ages, but a revive by Silence. Unfortunately, he drops right into the pit of the Fire Giant. And Streak Up and Ice can take him down. Pillar of Agony only catches 1 out this time, but it's a dive in by Azrael. Some big damage out of Hawk. And now it's 2 on the Highland Ravens who are gone, and a whoop catches out Vapor's Coast. Streak Up, a menace on the Freya, finds a double kill. Kana brought back in to the waiting arms of the rest of the Styx Ferrymen, but he is a little too tanky to go down just yet.
Oh, but Streak Up and Ice are chasing. They want this kill, and they want it bad. They sent 1 back to defend and be Azrael. The Hades is going to be able to clear out the waves. Kana needs to die to get this Fire Giant secure, just to be safe, just to be sure. It shouldn't be too much longer. And if you look at the timers, we have 22 seconds still on adapting. Hold a second. He just might turn this. Oh my goodness, King Arthur damage is crazy, first of all. But this Fire Giant should be pretty quick to fall, and I love that play. Streak Up went absolutely nuts with the most vital engage being on that B Azrael when he dived in on Thor. He got the silence out. Thor could not escape. And then it's the, oh man, come on, Streak Up.
This is,
come on, bro.
You know what? Pun intended. This is just playing with fire at this one, and unfortunately for Streak Up, he got burned. Look, that was the easiest setup I could get for one like that. Streak Up walks in. He was waiting for his cooldowns, I imagine, but he walks into the pit through the ring, doesn't have enough lifesteal, so then he has to Aegis the puddle, walks back through the ring, and the burn ends up taking him down afterwards. Still 4 on the Styx Ferrymen, get the Fire Giant. But unfortunate for Streak Up, the main casualty of all of that.
I don't want to say that's really bad, but that's really bad to lose the EFG on your ADC.
Caught in 4K.
A lot of letters for you. Yeah, first off, we caught you saying he got burned at Fire Giant, dude. Come on. Caster, by the way. Yeah, he went up in flames, guys. Oh my goodness. And this Gold Fury is really rich with success as the team gets it, bro.
Well, not that one. That one doesn't give you as much gold.
Bro.
That one gives you stronger minions.
You're a real Oni today with these jokes, J-Mac. You really own it. That was terrible.
That one was
that
one was I think out of all of them, that might have been the worst one you threw at me.
Yeah, I do production for a living, guys. My fault. However, these teams play SMITE. Not for a living, but they do it for a hobby at the least, and they are doing it pretty well. The Styx Ferrymen have a great path towards a victory here. The Phoenixes are up on all 3 fronts, EFG on 4. They're looking for a really good fight, and I mean, last time they got it. They found the engage on Thor while he was looking for that either wraparound, that counter engage. They're playing around what the Highland Ravens are doing. Do that one more time, you win the game. However, if you fail, it's probably game. I'm assuming this next fight is going to be very volatile in what happens. We're going to see some very nervous positioning play, some very nervous grouping, and we're going to see where this goes.
Both teams going back, I think maybe thinking somebody was going to try and make a push on the opposite side of the map, like Ferrymen maybe thinking that, oh, the Ravens are pushing up left. They're all going to be there. We need to make sure we get there. Opposite side there, you know, Ferrymen, oh, they're all in right lane. We need to make sure and go back. And so we end up having all 10 players just go back to base simultaneously for absolutely nothing to happen. But Oni minions will be pushed out, at least by the 6 Ferrymen, so no more threat in that regard. But because those 2 Phoenixes, the one in left and right taken earlier, going to be weaker, going to be a little bit easier to take for the Highland Ravens should they push in. But I mean, Billy, we're sitting a full 6-slotted fray at this point of the game. We're sitting a full build AMC. The carries are online. For Highland Ravens, how difficult is it to now push into this Ferryman team?
So I still think it's the way that I kind of described it earlier at that tier 2 and left, right? The Highland Ravens really succeed when it comes to counter-engage off of Thor ult. You need to have some form of commitment from the Styx Ferrymen, use some abilities to peel them out, and have Thor dunk, slam into the backline, do damage, and take at least one person out. It's okay if he has to double active. If you get one person out of the fight, that should be a continued win for the Ravens. However, he gets caught out, it is over. That is their only real beneficiary back into the fight. Sure, the Khepri ult could be used, but using that without trading out a kill in the first place at this point in the game is very risky. If it misses, if the Khepri ult doesn't get a revive, even worse realistically. And kind of cycling back to what we were talking, or what you were talking about at least, what the Ravens are doing is very smart. They were pushing out right, they were pushing out waves as 5. They were all getting XP, all getting gold, and they were pushing waves forward so that it is harder for the Highland Ravens to get a Phoenix on this Fire Giant. We're going to have another fight at the next Fire Giant in just a little bit. Fun fact for people that don't know, because I like talking, Fire Giant, when it hits 3/4 on the circle, the buff is gone on everyone, just about. You'll see it decrease in just a few seconds here, and the total timer is 5 minutes, so that split into force is like 1:30 or something funny. So that's the timer for Fire Giant, 1:30 just about. We will see that soon. What the play is right now for the Ravens: farm up, clear your neutrals, keep the waves pushed, do not let the Styx Ferrymen get a free wave or a free trebuchet coming in and take that over.
So the Ravens maybe wanting to wait for the Ferrymen to pull out this enhanced Fire Giant that's going to be respawning. But it's going to be about 45 seconds till that one is back on the map. So instead, Ferrymen will clear out the younger brother of the Fire Giant, the Pyromancer, taken away, at least for now. That'll just get some extra gold out there, make it a little bit easier for the Ferrymen to get back, should one get forced to base during this fight. But with all items available, I mean, we're 6-slotted across the board all the way through. Nearly every relic maxed out as well, only a couple left for the Highland Ravens. This is all going to come down to play on field for these teams. No experience gaps, no item gaps to separate them. This is all going to come down to execution. And as you say, the Highland Ravens have a great counter initiation if the Ferrymen step too far forward.
And the Ferrymen here, I'm assuming what they're going to be doing is looking to catch Adapting out. You see Iceland's kind of positioning back a bit more, keeping Adapting in his range to get ulted, but here it comes. Ice Ice is going in, and this is going dangerous.
Let's get the ult. Shield will get him back to decent bit of HP. But the junglers are really the only ones who traded out their health bars in that regard.
Double actives from Ice Ice, though, means that this engage on him in any degree, a Thor ult, a Thor catch, wall, hammer, Hoagie abilities, Baba Yaga's straight potion is going to be very dangerous.
Pillars are down for Rotwin. He won't have that for a little while longer. And that's a big tool for the Ferryman gone. Whoop does hit one, and Potion does hit Streak Up. Hits him for about 500 damage or so. And that'll keep the fray at back. But Trebuchet to the left side might just be able to get that Phoenix on its own with the help of those minions. It's going to be some required assistance from the Ferryman if they want to save that one. Ice Ice does get stunned out. Silence will get a pull onto Rodwin, but now it's Dark Pillar's eating him alive, and Azrael has found the first kill of the fight. Still holding on to that ultimate. Will grab Silence, will not hold on to Adapting, but a lot of damage thrown right back to this Hades. 5 versus 3, and the 6 Ferrymen have advantage around the Fire Giant pit, but with how low they are, I don't think they want to stick around with the Highland Ravens still healthy.
No, you see that Trebuchet, and if they're going to go ahead and send one person at least to get rid of that, they have a Trebuchet of their own, so we'll be pushing out a bit in their favor, and you can see just in the nick of time, saving that little bird. One more death. Ooh, I mean, the way that Highland Ravens kind of had to just fall back. Disengage was so segmented, so fragmented, it was very tough. Vaporous Coast dies while iSilence ults himself. It was just very split. The Highland Ravens weren't really in a group. The Styx Ferrymen caught them in a tizzy, and it looks like Fire Giant's the next target without many people here to go for it. It could be a good call, but I think they're going to want to play it safe. They're going to want to go ahead and try and get a kill. They got an active out of Kana, and 2 are dead, so they might be pulling it or trying to bait in another fight here.
Fire Giant started. Rotwin has ultimate. Hawk and Streak up a few seconds till theirs are back up. Pillars on the floor. Angry immediately away, use the beads, and the Sky is adapting, but where will he land? Will it be in the enemy territory, or will it be right back to safety? It will be back towards his side of the map. Fire Giant has been pulled yet again. The immediate initiation by adapting is gone to start this one out, but Kana has a way to get back in, with the ring about to spawn in. Not going to be a commit by the Ferrymen. Instead, the Ravens are going to try and grab this one away. Vaporous Coast will drop the Suns down, but the 6 Ferrymen will take their Fire Giant right back. Azriel will be able to dash away, but Vaporous Coast will go in. A good ricochet. Could deal a lot of damage in this corridor, but Streakup gets caught as soon as he lands from his own ultimate, and this Freya is completely gone. Kana finds the kill.
You saw that HP go up and down and up and then 0 immediately. That lifesteal was so useful for a singular auto attack before the rest of that damage came through. We saw so many actives get popped right there, and no, it is not a bad trade for the Styx Ferrymen. I was questioning why they were backing off. Hawk was auto-attacking it by himself for a few autos, leaving the Fire Giant at a few thousand HP. It was a quick turn for Vaporous Coast. He said, hey, let's just get this guy real quick. Turn around. Styx Ferrymen said, no, we actually want this back. They go ahead, pick that back up, and like I said on the last one, losing it on your ADC isn't that great. It's going to make sieges a little bit harder, but you do have the AMC mid, Amu's and Cav, Hunter, boom, big autos, big damage, big everything, right? He even has the Titan's Bane giving out some big damage on pretty much anything he does. We're 41 minutes in. Everyone's doing big damage if you're doing damage. So EFG on any Hunter means these Phoenixes are probably all going to get wiped unless we see a big fight. I don't expect the Highland Ravens to really do anything. Like I said, the Thor is their only real engage. Khepri goes in. He's going to get blown up. Vaporous Coast doesn't have engage. Kana can only frontline for so long before he gets Nemesis ulted. He gets Ganesha's silence. He gets committed on from this AMC. The Stinger also affects him as well. So it's not very safe for any of the Highland Ravens right now to just be the frontliner.
For now, the Ferrymen will just clear out some waves, with 4 of them having that Fire Giant buff. As you mentioned, Streakup the only one. Not the end of the world. Does suck to not have the big extra power spike for your Freya, but having that AMC means you make it up for it.
Oh, yeah.
At least in those sieges. But now we see the Ravens all going back to base, as it's a split attention across the map for the Ferrymen. 2 towards mid, 3 towards left. And for the Ferrymen, is this the best kind of split they can take, kind of divert the attention from the Ravens? Or if you're the Ferrymen, should you just push all 5 in one lane?
If you have a Nemesis in the jungle, you're trolling if you're not at least pushing 2 Phoenixes at once in this kind of position. She can take a Phoenix on her own. If she's alone with a wave for 10 seconds, boom, 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 that thing's gone. You can see this fight is split to have 2 ADCs in the left lane, so if they get an opening, boom, 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 it's gone. Azriel in mid lane is going to be kind of that tank for Ice to make sure he doesn't get double engaged on, so this is very smart. Maybe a 3-1-1 could lead to more success, but realistically, they're going to be waiting for a wave. They're going to be waiting for one person on the Highland Ravens to either be too far in the left lane or too far in the mid lane, have an uneven balance in numbers in one of those, and then it is just a green light to engage, get the bird, and then take the fight. You're going to have to be very clear with what you want at this. If you're the Styx Ferrymen, you can get the bird or you can start with a fight, but you all need to be on the same page.
3 versus 3 left. Pillars by Rotwin used, but his HP is low. Angry is rotated over towards mid and will use his house to get some damage back on towards Ice. A little bit of healing back for the jungler, but the Ferrymen not able to get the push that they were maybe hoping for. Has Streakup stepped too far forward. Good silence from Rotwin. Will keep Kana from rotating in towards that fight and get anything more than just that stun. The 6 Ferrymen can regroup themselves. One has gone back to base in Coast. A whoop onto Silenced is good, but Rotwin is low. He's going to be yanked back into the bird, and goodbye to the elephant. Highland Ravens have found one, and that is the go button for adapting. Just off the mark on finding Hawk. Will spin in place and not go any further forward.
Ooh, that was dangerous. If you're adapting, you miss a little bit more, and you are way too far deep into enemy territory. That is so smart from the Highland Ravens. They saw there was no pressure at all in the mid lane. There was no Nemesis. There was no Hades. We can commit to this Ganesha in left. They pull him in, wall him in. Even if the wall doesn't hit, he's going to have to expend a dash. He's going to have to do all this to get out, and he couldn't. Rotwin falls under the bird. Big damage goes out, and that is a successful EFG defense for a team that's not too great waiting for just the siege to happen by itself. They kind of have to, the Highland Ravens at least, have to really wait for some engage from the Ferrymen, and they were able to catch out Rotwin just off of that defense alone, which means that they have the power position here and the power posture to go for this Fire Giant.
15 seconds till the support's up. Angry dashed in. We'll be fine. Fire Giant set to spawn in just a few more seconds. The buff is already worn off of the waste of the Ferrymen. Pyromancer once again going to be at least the early prize for the Highland Ravens, but more than anything, this is just to buy some time. Not much else to do on the map with the minion waves pushed where they are and with the Fire Giant spawning back in. So for the Highland Ravens, their power play is over because Rotwin has respawned. And we once again go to this Fire Giant dance, and last time, this one started out in favor of the Ferrymen at the least.
And what I'm looking for if I'm the Ferryman is this Freya Whoop has served as a great just initial engage. Throw it, force a movement ability out, and then you have Nemesis, you have AMC, you have Hades, follow that up, chase it down, and get the kill. I think that's what they should be looking for realistically going forward, because Freya has been just immense amount of damage so that she can literally be the frontliner and still have enough lifesteal to kind of either fight, stand her ground, take the fight, do damage, heal up, or just go to her ult to the skies, quite literally, and back off, or even press forward depending on where this wraparound goes for the jungler or anyone else that's on the flank.
It will be a dance around the fire, but neither team willing to pull. Styx Ferrymen have been the ones to get 2 of the 3 Fire Giants so far this game. And as we're rapidly approaching this 50-minute mark very soon, these respawn timers, we already saw what they're looking like, 60-plus seconds if anybody goes down. And 60 seconds when there's no towers left on the map and weakened Phoenixes is an easy call for the Highland Ravens to make a win. And it's an easy play for Styx Ferrymen to also be able to grab some of these birds.
Look at
Azriel.
this Nemesis positioning, man, all the way behind the team.
But a blink in by Azriel, waiting for a perfect chance to get his ultimate, will force Adapt into Sky, half HP on the Thor. It's only going to be the tanks caught in with Azriel. He'll be just fine, but Vapor's Coast will not be, and neither will Adapting. The revive comes through. That gets him back, at least to safety for now, but Silence doesn't have the revive for himself. That's 2 picks for the Styx Ferrymen, and making a third one nearly. Adapting makes it out. Angry, very low, the whoop good,
you can make
but
it
Kana
free, baby.
surrounded by 5, not going to be able to run for too much longer as Azriel is dunked on in, and the wall will not save him. Hawk picks up 1. It's 3 down for the Ravens, a bird immediately after, and the Styx Ferrymen can walk right in. Adapting and Angry are going to have to put in the best defense of their lifetime to stop. But with everybody 6 slotted, a double banish from Streak Up will end the life of Angry. Adapting doesn't have the damage to hold out. It's game number 1, nearly 48 minutes in to end this one.
Ooh, what a barn burner. I've been waiting all day to say that term. Thank you very much for the first set of the day being 46 minutes. However, that was brilliant. Styx Ferrymen really showed their stuff. They went forward with the damage that they had. They weren't waiting for a counter engage. They caught Adapting out so many times over and over again in these fights. That's where they saw success. The Ice flank from enemy red buff to whoop, enemy speed all the way around, wrapped around. It was great. Perfect positioning. Even with 4 to 5, they had the power to keep going forward and just do well, get the fight, get the dub, and move us on to game number 2.
Yeah, with that one, a nice win to start things out for the Styx Ferrymen. But that's going to do it for game number 1. We're going to take it to a quick break. When we come back, we get you set up for game number 2. Welcome back to the SMITE Challenger Circuit. After nearly 48 minutes of play, the Styx Ferrymen are able to find the team fight they need to push on and move themselves into a one-game advantage in this best-of-3 set. But before we move on and talk about that, we want to talk about a very important sponsor, at least for the SMITE Pro League, and for all of you out there who have been waiting for new SMITE Pro merch, Skulls, the merchandise sponsor, now for the SPL. So make sure you go over to shop.smiteproleague.com in order to check out all of the great jerseys that you can now buy and all the great merchandise for our Pro League teams. Get yourself those jerseys as quick as you can. That way you can start repping your favorite teams as fast as possible. Either shop.smiteproleague.com or you can also go to shop.hi-rezstudios.com/SPL to pick those ones up. Thank you so much to Skulls for being the merch sponsor of Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. And now I'm back into the SMITE Challenger Circuit. The Highland Ravens, the team that, at least coming through just by tenure name alone, Billy, is probably the team that may have been the team expected to win out here. But when it came down to the late game, I mean, you nailed it perfectly on the head, where the Styx Ferrymen have the better late scaling composition. They were the ones who were able to come out and find that win early on.
Yeah, it wasn't a story of one team got the better composition. They were both very suitable meta, well-played compositions even, but the execution from the Ferrymen just kind of outweighed anything that the Ravens could really do. They were catching people out that shouldn't have been caught out. They were playing off of the counter engage that the Ravens drafted around doing, and it just kind of all went in their way once you hit the game.
Coming through, Ice on the Nemesis, starting fights out by ulting one of the tanks, removing some of those procs, making himself a little bit easier to get in and out of these team fights. But when it came down to the late game, I mean, this Freya even coupled in with the AMC. Whoever that stinger hit, that was the player that was targeted out. That was the player dying through Azrael, able to find some massive Pillar of Agonies throughout so many of these team fights. We saw a 4-man at the Gold Fury, only netted into 1 kill, but a couple of these 2-man ones in these late game team fights really coming up big for the solo lane for the Ferrymen.
Yeah, I mean, Freya is a character that once you hit late game, you can play a lot more aggressive and get a lot more reward for it than your typical ADC. You just have to suffer through the most agonizing mid to early game just in general, and oh my goodness, this auto attack cancel. So I was explaining it earlier, it's ability, auto, ability, auto. It comes out very quickly for Nemesis, and just damage output from that alone is absolutely insane late game when it comes to Nemesis, something that you can do better than any, I would say any jungler besides maybe Osiris, but just the amount of DPS that she can provide really showed in that late game. The scaling went really well for everyone. AMC, Stinger, boom, 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 you're done. Freya, same thing. Magical Edition, lifesteal aplenty for them on the Hades, on the Freya. I'm a little surprised the Ravens didn't go into any more anti-heal to kind of negate that, prevent that. But the tail of the tape is that the Styx Ferrymen got the dub.
Styx Ferrymen come out big for themselves, and it's actually protection shred for 3 different characters out there, not even including items that could be built up by someone like Streak Up. Ice with his ult, Hawk, his, same thing with Rotwin. Any one person gets caught out by either of those 3 or any combination of them, might as well consider them dead when the late game comes through. So Styx Ferrymen able to find their first win. And again, this is a very long-winded one. This came down to just execution on field. I mean, when you're passing the 35-minute barrier, dipping into 40 minutes, this no longer becomes, oh, well, we've got a 15,000 gold leader, or we've got still like 3 levels on our players, or we still got, an item up on every single person. We were 6 slotted out there, and nearly everybody had their relics fully maxed out. So the execution at the end just comes down at least to the Styx Ferrymen. So now for the Highland Ravens, they got to see if they can answer back. Is there any maybe change-ups, at least for you, Billy, that need to come from the Highland Ravens composition-wise to try and deal with this, or maybe just get a little bit more aggressive early?
I'll be the one that says it. Ban Hades, fellas. Annoying God. That's all I have to say. No, I'm joking. Ice looks way too good on the Nemesis. Take him off that God. Nemesis is far and far beyond one of the better junglers just in this meta right now. It's not even an auto attack kind of meta, and she's still thriving to this much success. You need to do something about her. Take her off. Hawk looked insane on the AMC. I don't think you negate any picks for him. You don't ban him out. Kind of let him do him, because realistically, if there's an auto attacker on the field, he's going to be able to get rid of it and pick it, get rid of it. Rotwin, go. I mean, go. Doesn't matter. You can't ban that guy out.
I mean,
Streak Up. I'm not banning a Freya, bro. Run it back. See what happens.
Well, we'll see if they do run that back. Game number 2, picks and bans ready to go between the Highland Ravens and Styx Ferrymen. So we will see how much of the competition at least bring themselves back up once again between these two teams. Rotwin played really well over on the Elephant that time around. We'll see if he gets to reprise that once again and see if he can run that one back. Will the Hades make it through? Maybe the ultimate question for these teams, because we've seen what it can do in the Pro League, and we've now seen what it can do over here in the amateur scene. And they're not building it like a traditional tank style of solo lane. This is essentially pure damage and then one sprinkle of defense kind of at the end of it out there. So you're playing a single front line, at least for the Styx Ferrymen roster in that game, versus the double front line that came from the Highland Ravens. The damage output just a little bit too much as these first bans come through. Yamoja and then the EU kind of exclusive first ban out there at the very least. The Heimdall taken away.
We're running it back. It's the same old stuff. They're not switching it up just yet, and just yet hopefully means that they change that up a little bit, because if this Hades pick doesn't come through, I'm going to be a little pressed. I'll be honest. There we go. Thank you.
Got it. They're
Thank
listening
you.
to you.
Big fan of the Hades ban. That's a rhyme. So what that opens up for the Ravens is they have something to play through in solo lane. You can pick a tank. You can have pressure in that lane. Like you said, Hades isn't a traditional tank by any means, but that lifesteal that he has makes him one. He has so much damage. He has lifesteal aplenty. He can heal up the damage that he takes while doing a ton. You don't need to build too much tank on him. The Warlock Sash building up that HP is completely fine. Maybe a cape, a shroud, something that gives him double prot will be nice, but he gains prots in his ultimate. He's doing damage, he's taking damage, and we're Khepri first picking again.
Yeah, but it will be Khepri first pick after the Yamoja tier Hades gets banned away by the Highland Raven. Styx Ferrymen will take away the Heimdall, Yu Huang, and the Nemesis. Interestingly enough, taking that one away from themselves. But as for this Khepri first pick, Ganesh right away
Okay.
might not have been the call I would go for in this top two, considering they've already got their support. You're probably not running Khepri somewhere else in any other kind of lane out there. So feels like maybe the Styx Ferrymen could have held off on this Ganesha pick. But Daji, that has been banned away so notoriously throughout all levels of play, does make its way to the jungler for the Ferrymen.
First pick Ganesha, that's literally my goat. Channeling me. Ganesha one trick, if you didn't know, that's what I won MVPs on, because I am so good at Ganesha. Such a fun god, such a good god. First pick material, not really. What I think the Styx Ferrymen are trying to do is kind of bait out more of what the Ravens want to draft. The Khepri first pick isn't very telling. It doesn't tell you where they want to go with this draft. They take the King Arthur, they take the Yaga. You learn a lot more. You can build a team comp around that if you know Ganesha is what you want. Ganesha is a great god to just take. There's no real hard counter to it besides a Daji, which they took up with it, right? Because that CC immunity lacking on Ganesha is a bit punishing if you get caught by something like a Daji. Oh, but they have the Daji, so it doesn't really matter. Ganesha, Daji means that they have more to work with when they're drafting out the itinerary of their draft in terms of what they want in mid, what they want in solo, what they want in ADC. They have a lot of space to build around it, which makes me think they might want to Freya one more time.
As we start jumping into the second wave of bans, because the jungler has been picked up for Ferrymen, it will be some more jungle bans by them to start out. Hun Bat's taken off the table. A Muzen Cobb paired at least along with the Daji and the Ganesh. So you've got that mid 3v3 at least figured out. Question is, will the Freya maybe be the call for Ferrymen to run back out for their Hunter player at the very least? Robin, Eset, and no Freya, because that one does get banned away. So we will have to see something new out of Streak Up over in that duo lane. And does anything after this Kabrakan gets locked in, so we will have some time to maybe think about this, is there any kind of Hunter that maybe stands out to you to go over for the Ferrymen this time around?
So the Ferrymen themselves could take the Ho Yi for themselves. The Ratatosker pick, the King Arthur pick, the Baba Yaga pick means that there's going to be a clear division between frontline and backline. There's going to be a lot of space inherently in the fight, which means you can pick someone who has really good auto attacks. Maybe a cheeky Cernunos could be the pick. The Rama also is a good shout, mainly because he needs the space. The space is going to be there. Why not pick him? He doesn't have a ton of abilities per se, but he has a lot of stims on auto attacks with Kabrakan. With Ganesha, you're going to have a frontline that builds up a barrier between you and the enemy. You get free autos off, you're doing insane amounts of damage. Pair that with an AMC, you got two Hunters who are just destroying you in the front line.
Yeah, one Hunter for killing the enemy team, maybe another Hunter for killing out the objectives. We'll see if Styx Ferrymen can repeat their game one performance and take game number two, or is it going to be the Highland Ravens who are going to sweep this one up and take us to a game number three? We'll have to jump into game number two to exactly see how that one pans out for these squads. Styx Ferrymen up 1-0 to start out this set. And maybe they won't have to go to 48 minutes this time to find the one, but if they do so, we at least have some decent scaling throughout. It will be Azrael taking the Kabrakan over to the solo lane. Ice on the Dodgy. And how do you kind of imagine that this build goes for Kabrakan? I mean, whenever he came back through, whenever the Fighter's Mask kind of became a thing, we were seeing Fighter's Mask into double lifesteal right out the gate. Do you think we're going to see a lot of the same thing from Azrael in this Kabrakan?
Well, he has bought a charged gem and, let me see, an uncommon staff, which is, say it with me, uncommon. Whoa! So smart, so funny, so hilarious. Thank you, everyone, for applauding. Conduit Gem means that he gets a good bit of damage off. I think it's the best starter for Kabrakan, realistically. Vamp Shroud is kind of thrown in the garbage at this current point in the meta. Not really picked, not really seen. It just provides a good bit of more damage when he's going to be channeling that 3. I believe that's what he will be maxing as well. He's going to be slamming that ground on this Gamma Slammer. Oh yeah, baby, bang, 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 bang. He gets his blue buff before the King Arthur should be, and he's going to have a good bit of wave pressure in this lane just because he can keep slamming while King Arthur just has to auto attack. It's going to be a little tough for him, and I think he's going to go ahead and go into this Warlock Sash. Similar to the Hades build, probably won't go as much lifesteal, but he's going to be a healthy tank that's just going to be slamming away, doing a good bit of magical damage. Probably will lean more into actual tank items, maybe Void Stone, Breastplate of Valor, stuff like that, so he can naturally tank that up while just running at the enemy.
Well, in the mid, Hawk vs. Angry on the AMC Baba Yaga once again, so a repeat at least in that lane. Everywhere else is at least a little different throughout. Double traditional Hunter in the duo lane this time around between Streak Up and Coast. We'll see how Streak Up can fare on a physical Hunter compared to the Freya before, but Rama kind of similar to Freya, at least in the late game regard. Once you get late game, get that stim going, and if we do end up seeing some crit, but quite hasn't been the meta just yet, Rama can tear through just about anybody and anything.
Yeah, Rama is similar in that sense. The only major difference is that Freya is based off of massive amounts of lifesteal. Meanwhile, Rama is more so just kind of using those stims to increase his auto damage, and you can already see it tearing through Vapor's Coast and the wave at the same time.
That's the benefit of those piercing autos of that first ability for Ram. Allows him and the Ganesh to get some easy pressure to try and grab that first scepter, but it was actually silenced in Coast who were able to take that one away. So the first neutral, or at least decent neutral buff out there does go the way of Highland Ravens. So that doesn't mean that they get lane pressure necessarily. They're still losing out in that regard. Thanks to Coast having some extra potions, he's able to dash in aggressively and now put Streak Up down to half HP.
So the thing is with Jingwei, it's the clear that you have is very dependent on where you use your Wind Gust. That first ability is going to determine how much wave clear you get, but who cares about wave clear when you're getting a jungle and solo matchup?
2v2. Azrael doesn't find the stun he was looking for, does find the Tremors on adapting. That's going to lock the Rat in until Ratatoskr does get that dash to get out. So 2v2 goes net even at least, but at least for Khan, I should say, has a little bit of the health advantage over the opposition. Azrael's already burned through all of his health potions and will need to go back to base if he wants to get some of that sustain to fight back in.
Yeah, it's just kind of pressuring out the solo lane side. The reason why we're seeing junglers kind of favor this solo side, you saw the same start that we had at the last game. The mid laner, jungler start at red buff, go to speed together. They both get that XP, then both mid laners walk it down mid at each other while the junglers go ahead and clear those back camps. There's just a lot of farm on this solo side. That's why junglers are there very frequently. And if they're there very frequently getting farm anyway, and there might be a free kill in solo, you might as well show up because these tanks love slapping each other no matter what kind of fight it is. They're gonna be clearing the way, they're gonna be hitting each other, but usually they will never kill each other. And that's where the jungler comes in. You get a free gank, you get some damage, just a little bit, sometimes can do it depending on how aware these solo laners are, but Azrael and Kana both are pretty aware. Their jungler's showing up at the exact same time pretty much. You can expect when the enemy's showing up because, hey, my jungler's about to show up, I'm gonna back off a little bit maybe, take this fight, and sure, you can get wave pressure, you can get an extra little bit of wave clear depending on if you actually win the fight or not, but both junglers showing up is a good sign that there's gonna be no, like, gives early in this lane. It's gonna be very solid the entire time.
Well, level 5s are hit across the board for everybody with the duo lane, so everyone on the right side of the map could start some ultimates out. Adapting in a very similar position to where he was last game, where Thor, semi-global, as soon as you hit 5, make a rotation, now on the Ratatosker, can do the same, but
Uh-oh.
from a little bit further away,
Ooh,
look
mid lane.
towards Solo. Now eyeing towards mid instead. We'll jump off the second branch. Not really going to have anything to crash down onto. A little
Look at
early
this
to grab the
Daji
mid
though
camps.
left.
So we'll be Angry teaming up with him there. And as you mentioned, Ice setting up for a fight in left. If a Porsche Coast sniffing it out.
Yeah, it's just a little questionable. Maybe he saw himself going in mid. He sees himself now, gets an early beats from Hawk as he returns the stinger onto Angry. We're trading up some big damage numbers here as Ice finds the return in. Home Sweet Home is good and protects him for just a little bit, but Angry has to get the Keprio to revive himself in this fight should he fall.
Doesn't want to proc the ultimate early, so that revive will be enough to save Angry. Ice not electing to throw that chain to get the kill. Maybe could have been an opportunity to pull him back as soon as the revive went through, or at least get some extra damage on him, but we'll hold out for now. So a lot of ultimates expended in the mid lane, but no bloodshed just yet.
Yeah, it's a good attempt. A good attempt. I think adapting, should he have held that ult initially, used it on that engage rather than kind of just wasting it towards that mid camp, could have seen a bit more success, could have seen a bit more damage, could have seen a kill, perhaps. We won't know. Using it beforehand, kind of just to zone out. I did believe he was looking towards solo lane and Beazriel. No defense item on the Cabrakan means he is pickable. You know, he can kill him, he can get his HP down. Once he gets this Warlock Sash built, it's going to be a lot more HP. It's going to be a lot harder to kill. It's going to be a completely different story because he's also going to be doing a lot more damage. And realistically, I don't see that ever tuning out for adapting there. That ult was a little silly in my books. That was the best chance he had. And he was just like, I'm going to use it for mids.
Yeah, unfortunately, both players that he could have gone for a little too far up their lanes at the very least. Hawk was kind of pushing towards his tier 1. You saw Azrael pushing back towards the tier 1 as well. So no good target for adapting's first ultimate. But that ult is back online, so we could see this Ratatosker make his way towards left, and we'll need to help out because Ice goes in against Coast, but Coast is fighting back. We'll walk through the wind gust, see if he can find anything. Ice rooted out, Ice pulled back. It should be an easy kill for adapting to pick up first blood. The setup from Silence, the damage from Coast makes for an easy pick for the Ravens.
Nice catch. You love it when your lane gets ganked and you're completely fine. You're living and you're forcing that jungler. Ice was playing way too far up, trying so desperately to catch Coast just a little bit longer. Ooh, hold on. Rotwin catches Adapt and lazy backing. And that's all you can do is support. I gotcha, and have fun not backing. Here we go. This is my GOAT. This is my GOAT. Forces adapting to dash away. This is actually, okay, this is troll. This is good. This is very good for Rotwin because he is forcing adapting to take so much longer to get back to farming, get back into pace. Ice is sure a level down. He needs all the space, all the time he can get. Just a few cams could spell the difference in that like mid-game between having a level up, not having a level, having some gold, not having some gold. That's troll. It's hilarious to watch, but it is actually pretty vital, I would say.
Yeah, Rotwin trying to get his jungler back in, trying to get a buff for his hunter. They will secure that one. Vaporish Coast not able to steal that one away. So first blood going over to the Highland Ravens, but a little bit more than just the bounty and goals lead. Adapting one to extend that a little bit further. We'll dunk down on top of Azrael, finds knockup, finds the stun, finds the spin, but not much more beyond there. This is a fairly healthy Cabrakan with that Warlocks being picked up and already stacking away. A little too much HP on the Cabrakan to take down just yet.
Yeah, as I said before, it's just an item that builds up your ungank ability as a solo laner. It is sought out by pretty much every Guardian, but hold on, Angry needs a Guardian of his own to protect him from this ultimate. Stinger used and dropped under the tower, so Hawk won't be able to pick that up, but a good bit of damage and a Beats burn is pretty good.
Yeah, Beats being taken away from the Baba means that only the house available for safety. So for the Highland Ravens, Adapting has been trying to make his mark, has done so at least once in that regard. Is this the perfect time of game, at least for Highland Ravens, to be aggressive, to try and get themselves towards that lane? You have a Baba Yaga scales well towards the late game, Jing Wei, Hunters just in general go well when you start getting to that late game, Khepri as well. So is this the perfect time for the Highland Ravens to try and make these aggressive plays?
it is a little unfortunate the Highland Ravens actually getting to that duo lane lead because Silence did go into Thebes. What Thebes means is that you want to wait until that's pretty much stacked before you want to be engaging or taking fights. Rotwin win it himself, so they'll be slowing the pace down pretty tremendously, at least on the duo side, when that's where Adapting got his kill, when that's where he got the pressure. Taking it to Azrael means that they get this tower early, sure, but they aren't really translating that into anything else but the tower gold. We're going to see maybe a fight break out here as iSilence is getting gone on.
Silence knocked out. Good double stun, though. From Kana will keep them out, but a better wall from Azrael will lock the Kepri, and another big stun from Adapting. Found 4 in the middle of all of that. Can Silence dash out in time? Can he have the distance to get away from iSilence? It does seem so. And Azrael now surrounded by 3, surrounded by 4 as Adapting comes back in and finds the second kill of the game, and the second kill for himself and the team. Highland Ravens making their mark on the right side.
Dust yourself off, young man. iSilence should not have lived there. I'll be quite frank with you, and I'm Billy, by the way. He shouldn't have died. He should have died. Should not have lived. He gets so much space created. The Thebes did finish stacking, so he had a ton of procs. He had his ultimate. He had his passive, building up shield. He had so much HP that they needed to shred through. The Ferrymen just couldn't get it done in time before the rest of the team. Adapting, hitting that crazy stun through the Cabrakan walls, did so much work. The spacing he created with that little spin did an amazing job of clearing the way. He gets the second kill of his, well, of the game, of the entire game, by the way. So 2-0 for him. He has a huge lead. No matter where he presses this now, it's going to spell trouble for the Ferrymen. They're going to need to play around where this Ratatosker is going to be, and he's a little tricky guy with that ultimate.
I think I may have downplayed just how good that stun was from Adapting. Not only did he find 1, 2, 3, 4 people with that one, he did that through a Cabrakan wall and found all of them, and that really turned that fight around. Insane plays from Adapting to start this one out. And that just shows the tenure of the player in general. I mean, he's been playing since this game has had a competitive scene at this point. You can kind of see it now as he's started to warm himself up, at least in the second game. Not the best Thor, at least in game number 1. Did find some good dunks. Not really able to find any kills, but at least starting out with 2 of his own in game number 2. And poised to at least push the Ravens for a good opportunity to work towards a game 3, as we have a near 4,000 gold lead. The largest gold lead that we have seen, I think, in general, between these two teams. Up until last game, it was almost 30-some-odd minutes before we saw a lead like this.
Yeah, it's a very early swing for the Ravens, but what matters now is kind of what they do with it, right? What items are you buying? What are you scaling for? What are you playing for? Are you playing to just run it down at this point? Are you playing to, you know, hold back a second, let this gold plateau as we build up before we are ready to engage? Or are we just going to say, you know what, we're going in, we're fighting every second possible? There's a lot of ways they can play this, and I'm really interested to see how it goes. And it might start with this duo fight.
Goes dashing aggressively. He's got 2 levels up on Streak Up, 4 ahead of Rotwin. Adapting finds Hawk in the back line, and this AMC is completely down. Killing spree for Adapting. 3 kills for the Ravens, and maybe
a goal.
A little bit more than that. C2 heading that way, but they're looking for the fight instead of the objective. They will find the fight for sure. Streak Up eating a lot of damage. Good root afterwards.
This has got to be
force
a gold.
That roll.
Oh yeah, you force out. Very smart by Coast to actually run towards the purple buff. Probably knew it was up, had vision on it when he was being aggressive before the fight even started. He said, hey, let's look at this gold or purple buff. Look at the purple buff. Oh, hey, Rama's here. Let me damage you. You're damaged. You're not going to be able to contest gold. Everyone swings around. We get a free gold fear on top of a 3rd kill on Adapting. This Ratatosker is looking feisty.
Adapting and his team able to pull up a 5,300 gold lead to start this one out. All 3 kills on the jungler as well, which means a nice bounty if a member of the Styx Ferrymen can find a kill onto Adapting. But the way they've been playing has been just so pristine so far out of the Ravens. Even so far as Kana zoning away the ROM. Streak Up does have that ultimate available, which is a not super easy, but at least a very safe opportunity to steal. And you saw that Kana was so far up, almost sitting at the enemy purple buff to make sure that ROM couldn't go up in the sky, to make sure that Rotwin couldn't try and find a steal with the pillars either. So the Highland Ravens starting out this game strong, starting out quick as it's ballooned to even further through, almost 5,500 to start this one out.
Yeah, this gold lead is going crazy. This item lead is going absolutely crazy. It's allowing the Ravens to do a lot more damage. You can see right now the Hydra's Lament being picked up by Adapting means that he's going to be dashing in auto. That's a huge chunk of your health. But guess what? Stun, auto, another chunk. And guess what? ultimate, land, auto, his kit's back up, you are dead. Sorry, that's just how it's gonna go. Realistically, this is kind of a different type of Thor. The world tree that he ultimates onto, he has the branch, he has the presence over these fights. You can see right now he's positioning out and grouping out 3 different members of the enemy team. Ooh, and some big trades from duo lane. Vapor's Coast has a 3-level lead. Any fight around duo lane is going to go pretty poorly for the Ferrymen.
Rotwin pulled into the middle of 4. No chance for the Elephant to find his way out. It's a matter of who gets the kill.
No one.
No one will. Dharmic Pillars.
Oh no,
pulled
Adapting's
through.
waiting.
Adapting wants it, waits for the back, dashes in.
Yeah.
Auto, an easy kill for the jungler, 4 for him. And maybe a little bit more. Pillar out or the pal out for Ice. Finds 2 chained up. They'll both get pulled in. Neither of them concerned whatsoever. Silence doesn't have beads.
Look at Adapting.
Vapor's Coast does. Adapting
Oh.
doesn't find the stun onto Ice. A miss from the jungler means that Ice will get to live through the fight. There's nothing to really fight over for on this left side. It's just fighting for the sake of fighting.
No, what the Ravens were kind of positioning for was invading this red buff and swinging this massive lead into mid lane. Angry showing just what that means. Huge damage. This home sweet home is sending Hawk right back to the same place. Adapting will dunk down and be Azriel. Sorry, buddy, but you are 1v3, and now you're in the gray screen.
So 6 kills in the game, 15 minutes in. Way more than we saw the last time around at this point in. All 6 of those kills on Adapting. And a near 7,000 gold lead and climbing as Tier 1 tower threatened by Angry and Kana. Not going to go down actually this time around, so hold out for a moment. Minions will show up
It's
and
like 10 HP.
maybe try and take that one out. But Highland Ravens playing fast and playing early. And this is something I was talking about in the pregame all the way back in game number 1. When you have a team that has Adapting on it, I think back to playing on the days of Belt Slap and Elysium, those kinds of rosters. When Adapting was with them, they were the only EU team that was winning games in 20, 25 minutes, and that's just because Adapting wanted to get that early style of play from his time in the SPL.
Yeah, he's used to gods that can kind of force their will early. If he's in a position to, he can go absolutely crazy. We see it on the Rat, and I do have to shout out that kill on Rotwin was definitely payback for cringe stopping his backs, by the way. Absolutely ridiculous. But look at, he's running under tower to take this, and he is now running at Hawk. Because guess what? It is free. Okay, Kana will take it. Kana will take it.
Kana says,
buddy.
I need one. You said you can't have all the kills Adapting. You can't have all 7 of our kills. Let us have a little bit of fun first. But
oh, he's looking for this 7th. He's absolutely going on Ice. He does have no ultimate. He's going to have some protection from his teammates, but you need to be very careful about where you land. Ice completely backed out, 3 levels down. We're grouped up on the right side. This might be a fire giant as Vapor's Coast is all on his lonesome.
Does Coast win the 2v1? That's the real question.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%.
He's winning the 1v1 against Rotwin. Finds an knockback and streak up. Silence holds him back. Now attention diverted.
You got hit autos, young man.
And he is winning this auto trade. Finds a nice little crit in the midst of it. A dash in by Coast.
No.
The knockup gets the
Good
Aegis.
Good Aegis.
And that makes sure that Streak Up lives. But Streak Up can turn the snipes around on his own. Finds the second, gets the third. Not quite enough. Is the burn enough? No, it is not. Ice does not get the kill from the dot after. And instead, it's Adapting, rotating in to make sure that the fight stops in its tracks.
That was absolutely clean. That was the best Streak Up could do. They started missing a few autos in there, but realistically, one more, and Vapor's Coast does unfortunately die. So you missed out on that. However, Aegis-ing the wind tunnel that came up, the wind current knocked him up. It would have landed another free auto, which would have mean Streak Up dies. Great Aegis to pre-Aegis on that. Use that ability. There's nothing Rotwin could really do to set up for Streak Up. The dash, he was just zoning for purple buff. Right now, if you're the Styx Ferrymen, you're playing to just control your own farm. Don't let it get invaded. Use your resources to give it up. Right now, Gold Fury, Fire Giant don't really matter at this stage in the game. You don't lose off of losing it, right? You have to play to scale. You have to play safe. Give this up. Don't die anymore. Confirm your own farm. Confirm your waves. Build yourselves up before you can fight one more time. And hopefully that one fight will go a bit better than it has previously.
They're going to need a couple of fights from the Styx Ferrymen to maybe bring this one back. 10K gold. And approaching the 10K at least. 9,000 gold and XP up for the Highland Ravens. 18 minutes in.
Oh, no.
Ice has his teleport stopped by Kana. Half HP on the Dodgy. Kana, level 17, 3 levels up on the next highest, at least against him there. Some level 15s now procking up for the Ferrymen. Can those 15s be enough, though? Because Vapor's Coast is rotated in. The Fire Giant started up for the Highland Ravens. Styx Ferrymen don't have a whole lot of steal potential. They've got Streak Up for some long-range shots, but adapting is keeping everybody else busy in the back line. And so is Kana, forcing all 5 of the Ferrymen to back away. The Fire Giant leashed, and Highland Ravens will keep the Ferrymen out.
So this is decent from the Styx Ferrymen, right? You don't lose a lot. No one dies, and you stall out Fire Giant a little bit. There's realistically no steal potential. Maybe a Stray Ganesha one, a Stray Ganesha ult, but that is not reliable. They should be looking for a fight. Adapting used his ultimate. He doesn't have a lot of things to go forward. They're going to blink in and start this fight off strong.
Snipes are big, though, from Streak Up. A lot of damage coupled with Azrael will put HP bars low for 4 players on the Highland Ravens. Only Kana is healthy in this fight. Meanwhile, it's 3 standing strong for the 6 Ferrymen. This Fire Giant that was started by the Ravens, maybe their own coffin. Ice Ice walks a little too far forward, though. That's giving the beads burned away, and Silence will get taken down. Kana, no mana. Gonna back himself away from the fight. The Highland Ravens lose their support through it all.
I like that Kana no mana, but Adapting here is looking for people with no HP. Ice Ice is low, and he can surely 1v1 anyone. But the Styx Ferrymen are grouped up so well. I think he's just going to have to go ahead, get this wave, and forfeit out any kill potential. And that was great. Styx Ferrymen getting at least 1 kill out of that. Sure, could have gotten more, I'm sure of it. But 1 is better than none. That's what they always say. You can see a little tiny dip in that XP. That is getting a kill on someone who is, let me check my books, 1-4, or 0-1 and 4. Support, kills don't matter. Assists do. That's how it works. Anyway, Silence dying there is massive. Rotwin a level up already. He's doing great things for his experience. B. Azrael started that fight immensely. There was no cooldown. There was no Ratatosker ultimate, so there was no pressure on your backline. They don't have a free way to dive if you are frontline, and that's why he blinks and ults in. And hold a second. Do not die, Rotwin.
Oh, whoa. That turnaround snipe only needs 1.
And he gets it, baby.
He grabs it. Nice easy pickup and a turnaround for the Styx Ferrymen, nearly losing Rotwin through that. But Streak Up standing his ground, finding some big damage, and the pillars as well playing a part to get a 2nd kill now for Styx Ferrymen. And maybe they don't need to win a full big team fight. They don't need to wipe the Highland Ravens. They're going to keep finding these small little picks. They can slowly start to dwindle that gold lead down.
Yeah, don't lose your confidence, and most importantly, don't lose your numbers. Rotwin and Streak Up had the advantage that entire time. Vaporish Coast, sure, was an oboe tick away from getting a kill, but they turn it immensely, get a great find on picking off Vaporish Coast, and it looks like Ice Ice might suffer the same fate.
Sunned out, and, well, a potion toss from Angry from across the wall will make sure to put an end to the life of the jungler of Styx Ferrymen. Not much of an opportunity for him to fight in there. In fact, it was the Magi's that got taken away by Silence to make sure he did not get pulled in during that one. So no losses there for the Highland Ravens. They find their pick, and now they'll push up to the right side, tier 2 under threat.
Yeah, and this build from Angry is something I really have to highlight as he's hovering around this tier 2 that you were talking about. It's Warlocks into Karen's Coin, 2 stacking items that are typically seen on you either get one or the other. It is not usually seen both, but Baba Yaga being able to stack them both through her passive, her Home Sweet Home takes a little walk, you gain the little juice that can build up the stacks on its own. Absolutely insane damage already. That 1 potion hit for about 600 damage or something absolutely crazy. We are 22 minutes in. Last game went to 40 minutes. Imagine how much that potion is going to be doing should we reach that mark. I think Highland Ravens, even with the lead now, are completely fine just stalling this game out, taking it longer, letting this damage build up, because if you can get a for sure 1,000 plus damage potion, why not play for Vaporish Coast? Going into this kin size executioner auto attack style build means that he might go into crit into this last item, but he doesn't need to. He's doing immense amounts of damage, immense amounts of shred, HP chunks. So the same goes for Adapting, who's switching into this Titan's Bane. There's penetration galore here on the Raven side, and they're looking to just absolutely melt 1 person at a time of the Styx Ferrymen.
Styx Ferrymen will try and get some vision around the Fire Giant pit, but there are 4, making all 5 of the Ravens ready to go in. Silence loses his bubble right away from Rotwin's Silence. And Kana will walk up, find a little bit of damage, but not too much. Highland Ravens can play this one a little bit patiently if they need to. It's the Styx Ferrymen who are behind about 8k gold. And every moment wasted in the jungle by the Styx Ferrymen is farm taken away. It's gold and experience that they're losing out on. The Styx Ferrymen aren't going to stick around for too long. The Ravens will move themselves over to the Oni Fury instead. A nice and easy objective pickup for the boys in blue. And then maybe even a tier 1 tower as well, as that minion wave is pushed pretty far up. Because will not stick around. Adapting will steal a purple. And he should be fine to get out. Ultimate is available for Ratatosker. Don't imagine he'll stick around too long, especially with Streak up there. Easy getaway for the Rat.
A little bit of a welcoming party saying, hey, welcome to our tier 1. Hope you didn't intend on getting rid of it, because we're here to defend it. Some great looks. I mean, giving up Gold Fury, okay, I guess. You're posturing to clear your neutral farm, and if that doesn't swing you onto the left side, you're not going to be there for Gold Fury. You're going to be on this right side for Fire Giant, which is lowering down to half HP, but these tanks are looking furious.
There's not a whole lot that Kana can do to zone a Kabrakan and a Ganesh away from Fire. So instead, the Fire does get leashed by the Highland Ravens. Not going to make the commit to it just yet. As Kana still standing front line to keep the Styx Ferrymen at bay.
Yeah, this is just kind of what I was talking about. We're plateauing the game right now. Ravens are kind of just looking for an opening. They'll take it if they can get it. If this tier 2 is going to be free, sure, we'll auto it. If you show up to defend it, maybe we back off. But they have the numbers. They're going to go ahead and take this. There probably won't be a fight afterwards. What we are looking for here, if we're the Ravens, is we don't have great engage, right? This Ratatosker can engage with an ult, but it's very telegraphed. It's very noticeable. People will see and notice this Rat moving to whatever target you have. The Styx Ferrymen have the Kabrakan. They have a great look of ultimates with this Daji, with this Kabrakan, with this Ganesha to control the space that the Highland Ravens have. However, no one is here for this Fire Giant. You can't control the space if you're not here for it.
Rodwin tries to step up, but Fire Giant will go the way of the Ravens, barring a miracle steal from someone somewhere, but there is none to be had. Highland Ravens grab the objective and kind of 1v3ing in the enemy backline, putting Azrael and Rotwin back to about half HP on their own. Only tier 2's towers left standing for the Ravens to knock down, and they'll go ahead and start with the one in solo lane. Minion wave right behind them. They can make a push towards the Phoenix. Only 4, now 5 with Streak Out coming through. This is going to be a defense from the Ferrymen.
This isn't going to go well for you. Rotwin has this Emperor's Armor, so this defense is going to go very strong for them. Off the rip, they have every ultimate, and they're using it to their advantage. The front line doesn't really have a space, but now that Ganesh ult is down, they might look for the counter engage. Need to be very wary of the Azrael's Kabrakan ult, though.
Just to wait for the minions. It's not enhanced Fire Giant, so backdoor protection is still a thing. Not a heavy commit. Silence will tank up the Phoenix just a little bit. Dodgy up on the Pal Lao. Silence will have to cleanse himself so he doesn't get pulled in. And Azrael almost taken out by the Home Sweet Home. It's Adapting, who will crash to the back.
No
Misses
way.
the landing, but finds the spin afterwards. A double stun out of him as well, and a turnaround damage is gonna be good. Kana finds the kill. Only 1 tower left standing. 3 low members of the Ferrymen, and a mid lane Phoenix on the horizon for the Highland Ravens. Right side Phoenix down and 2 picks.
And that is how you play the Ratatosker. You let your entire team do this frontline fight. You ult in the back. Don't even have to hit it that hard. You know, it's a hard skill shot. You follow it up with a little bit of damage, dash about 30 meters that away, and get out completely free. We're seeing the same thing happen to this bird as the first one. It falls down. They don't have the numbers. The Styx Ferrymen can't put up that defense that they had on that first push. So initially, I think it was a good look. Realistically, the Styx Ferrymen kind of committed a bit too much in a segmented way. The Ganesh ult came up first on this first wave, and then the second wave came in, Dodgy ult, Kabrakan ult. Should they have used it all together, might have seen a bit more success. However, that wasn't what happened, obviously. They lost the bird because there was just no way for the damage to get peeled out for the Ravens. Bay Forest Coast, even on such a safe pick like Jing, absolutely killer on birds. You can't really lock her down without having her fly away, ult away, get out, and she just had so much open room in front of her. It was very easy for that bird to fall down. So right now, Styx Ferrymen in repair mode. Try and save up, push up these waves, keep these birds as healthy as you can. You're playing for next Fire Giant. Maybe it's kind of risky not to, but if you take it and lose, you're losing the game in one fight.
It's only 1 tower left for the Ferrymen to may or may not defend. Probably a case of may not in this instance. 1 minute left on the Fire Giant power play for the Highland Ravens. Kana and Coast will push up by themselves for now, clear out the waves and get their own push there. It should be an easy tier 2 tower unless the 6 Ferrymen decide to full commit on a defense to it. Doesn't seem they will. with Azrael on the full right side of the map. Ice not there, so tier 2 tower will go down swiftly to Vapor's Coast on the Jingwei. And now the Ravens have 45 seconds left with their Fire Giant power play. Do they make the push into this Phoenix is the question.
You got to. You have a little bit left on Fire Giant, so this should be pretty free. If you look for a fight, you might look to end the game on top of that. Adapting here with this flank isn't even noticed by Ice.
Ice will notice once the spin goes through, but not wanting to pop that Magi's Revenge just yet. Not wanting to start the fight at a potential deficit with being in enemy territory. So the Trebuchet gets sent out, the Trebuchet gets sent down by the Highland Ravens. The Phoenix slowly pushed out. It is Silence taking up the Phoenix. Pillars are out. Some decent damage thrown through Vapor's Coast. Up in the sky, delaying the snipes as much as possible. Shriek Up used his ultimate, adapting, goes up to the sky.
Oh no.
But will he crash back into the enemies or will he rejoin the team? It seems
Way
coming
too
back
healthy.
with the team is going to be the question. But with Trebuchet here, the Highland Ravens can slow burn this one out and maybe just take this Phoenix if they decide to wait around.
If they wait around too long, though, they might get caught. The cooldowns here for Dodgy are up. He could be waiting for some team. Baba Yaga will pop roll. Looks like Highland Ravens are actually looking to be the aggressors here. Taking down this bird should be a slow process, but B. Azrael does not want it to be.
No, he does not. Goes in, finds a Tremor onto a few and gets them away. Pal out by Ice, finds 3 with the chain. But how many will he pull in? It's only going to be Coast. Aegis is gone, and so is Ice. Coast Aegis runs out just in time and adapting. Finds a kill in the backline. Pours Coast. Finds the double kill onto Hawk. And the defense that was so good for the Ferrymen, the re-engage that started out so well for them, has gone completely south. Adapting will find the stun. Will not find enough just yet, but will get the double kill at the end of the day to find the kill and put 4 up for the Highland Ravens. A 9-0 performance. Will he make it 10 with a kill onto Azrael? No, Coast will take that chance away. And this time in only 30 minutes, it's the Highland Ravens taking us to game number 3.
Now, I am not the one to blame my teammates for anything. However, adapting 100% kill participation that entire game. Ice, 6k damage at the end of the day.
That's not good.
Little tough, right? Dodgy and Rat do different things, surely, but that was a tale of letting this Ratatosker run rampant. They had no answers for the flanks, for the opportunities, and they had no counter engage that they saw in game 1. The Styx Ferrymen were kind of just lost compared to the adapting Rat that just ratted all over them.
Yeah, I mean, started the game 6-0 by the 15-minute mark, ended with a 9-0 for himself, adapting the King in the Jungle, and the Highland Ravens will take game number 2. We'll see if they can bring it back in game number 3 right after this break.
No music.
We don't need music. I need music. Music's for chumps. A bit of a faster pace to this one through, adapting maybe not the best initial start right out the gate out there, but once he finally got his feet under him, adapting, able to really clean up and really bring out the damage that he needed for his kills, get the set up for his team, and he's able to go 9-0 in this game. And I think that's really about all that we need to say for that one, Billy, because this was the adapting showcase, kind of a bit of a jungle diff in that matchup there, and that leads the Highland Ravens to their second game win.
You say faster than game one.
Well, it was 48-30 in timer.
Comparatively,
Yes.
a golf cart is in fact faster than walking. Is it fast? No. However, the difference in this game was that adapting could not be answered. This Ratatosker had insane flanks, had insane presence throughout the map, even without using his ultimate as a means to engage. Adapting was all over the place in terms of getting every kill. Every assist was touched by him in some fashion. He was looking absolutely fantastic compared to the Thor, because on the Thor, there were answers. He was able to be caught out before fights. He was able to be just gone on initially. He was caught out a lot more on this Thor game. Ratatosker completely changed the name of the game. Frontline, backline, everything on the Ravens was playing through adapting success, and, well, it translated into more success.
Yeah, adapting, kind of picking up a couple of kills of his own. I think Angry was able to sneak one in there as well, but it was a 6-0 start for the Highland Ravens. It was all 6 of those were on adapting at that one point, and then kind of finally snuck one in for himself.
Stole one.
Yeah, it did steal. He definitely did walk up and take the last, like, 150 HP from him at that point there, but a 9-0-6 for adapting compared to the other side, 0-3-1 for Eyesight. Not the best performance on the Dodgy.
Hold on. Angry went 1-0-11. I want to see his damage. Was it more or less than Rat? What is your guess?
I'm going to say he was over. No, he was not. He was
17K
4K under.
What?
I think 21,000 out of adapting with this short of a game comparatively, even with all the aggression. Probably a testament out there, but it's Vaporish Coast who actually takes top damage in the lobby. 24,000,
Okay.
nearly 25 for the Hunter.
I'm an ADC player. I have top damage. I'm so impactful on the game, guys. Look at me. I'm doing things. I'm autoing. Wee.
Dude, he was autoing Ganesha for all of his health, didn't get the kill, turned around, died. ADC players, if you're top damage, I don't care. Sometimes you aren't doing anything. Adapting, did a lot, did most damage. I expected Angry to be on the top of the charts. Baba Yaga damage is insane. Didn't get there. To my surprise, adapting really was and far between the real leader of the Ravens in terms of getting this victory today.
Well, let's see if some change-ups do come over for the Styx Ferrymen as we approach game number 3's picks and bans. Game number 1 went to Ferrymen, 48 minutes of play. Game number 2 goes over to the Ravens, only about 30 minutes this time around. Will we see a faster than game 2? Will we see a slower, more kind of towards game number 1 pacing? Well, that's up for these two teams to decide as we jump into the bans right away. Now, typically, we've been seeing these Heimdall kind of be a second team, kind of first ban out there. But this time around, it's the Styx Ferrymen in that first pick slot that'll like to take this Heimdall away. So not wanting to leave that one open to be taken by the Highland Ravens for that second pick slot, but still always fun to see that. It's only in EU that we're seeing that god banned away, Billy.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone over it multiple times. Heimdall is just an ADC that every EU player knows like the back of their hand. Absolutely incredible god to pick. If an ADC on an EU team gets it, they are doing numbers. That's when top damage ADC matters, guys. Anyway, the bans coming through. Arthur, Kepri, Yamoja, Hades, annoying frontliners that do a lot of work just in general. They have different things that they do. Arthur's a lot more tanky. Kepri, I'm so glad you are finally getting Eye Silence on something else because he is a monster on Kepri. It feels weird saying that about Kepri. You have a monster performance. Those ultimates have been absolutely wonderful throughout the entire game, leaving last HP ticks, getting so many saves that don't get counted into any stat line. The true sign of a good support. As Nemesis gets left open for the first pick, I mean, it brought Ice success in game 1. I don't see why it would bring him success in game 3.
Yeah, link between these two teams bans out there: Heimdall, King Arthur, Kepri, Tyr, Hades, and Yamoja. So the Hades still not going to make its way through into another potential game. We got the one game of fun with the Hades,
Yeah,
and now it's done. Well, fun for the Hades player.
Yeah, fun for 1 of 10.
Fun for one player on that map. Well, I guess fun for the team that had to have the Hades that's got those big setups, but
I would have a little bit.
no more to be had there. Nemesis Cupid Terra gonna make her way through finally for these two teams. We've been seeing a little bit of Terra kind of rise up, and talking with Aurora and PBM and some of the other supports, at least in the SPL, it really does feel like this rise of Manticore Spike and even Fabulous Hoops has really brought Terra and some of these other more heal-oriented Guardians kind of towards the limelight.
Yu Huang getting picked, was not banned for the first time this set, gets picked up by the Styx Ferrymen. We'll see what I'm assuming Hawk can do with it. It might go to streak up if something cheeky happens. But as you were saying, yeah, Terra is very good, is very strong. I have a few issues with her, though, and I'll go into that in a little bit. The Cupid, a counter pick to Nemesis, stops the dashes, stops a lot of aggression from her, and can do the same to Rat. But this Terra was picked, I'm assuming. The ultimate does a lot of work. Manticore Spikes gets procced on every single one of her abilities. The clap, the dash, pillar, boom, boom, boom. You get a lot of Manticore Spikes. You pick them up. Tons of damage can spread throughout. But it is that need to combo, the need to chain, the need to follow up and commit to yourself, to your combos, to your abilities. Very telegraphed, very stoppable if you pick around it. Getting it this early is good to have it, but how are the Styx Ferrymen going to respond?
Well, we'll have to see how they go. With the Ratatosker, some flexibility to maybe go over towards the solo lane, though we did just see a good performance out of it in the jungle by adapting. So at least a ban to take that one away from him. Dodgy notably still open, could be a target maybe to try and go up against that Terra. No CC muted into her kit, maybe try and pull her back. But Baba Yaga, is this 3 games in a row now for Angry to pick up this Baba Yaga?
The old triple Yaga, as we like to call it in the minor leagues. The trip Yaga, big damage, big numbers. Why not run it back one more time? It's very comforting for Angry to take it, or a very comfort pick to take it. Maybe he gets comfort in seeing Baba Yaga. I mean, she's a nice old lady, I'm sure. Potions do a lot of damage, and that's what he wants it for, I'm sure. But this Horus solo, Horus jungle, we have options.
Horus support? Maybe throw Terra in the solo? I mean, it's been a while since we've seen Terra solo, but it's definitely something that was really popular back in the day. Used to do, I think it was the Soul Reaver build. You'd blink, drop your ultimate with whoever had dots around you, and you just get free Soul Reaver procs across the board.
Yeah, it's possible. I'm not anti-Terra Solo here, but I'm not for it, mainly because that cooldown, the big cooldowns on her kit makes clearing the way very hard. She's going to get out-pressured by, I'm assuming at this point, the Ratatosker potentially. Either a Ratatosker or Nemesis both will out-pressure you, both will take your wave, run away, and then rotate into a fight, be useful elsewhere while you're stuck, Guardians clearing waves. We know how that goes sometimes. But Horus, I think, has a much better chance than Naja to round out the Ravens draft. I'm assuming goes to Mr. Adapting himself. I don't like it. I'll be the guy. I don't like it. I don't like this comp. It does not do a lot.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about the composition as the game starts up. Game number 3 between the Styx Ferrymen and the Highland Ravens, ready to kick off. Again, for our debut back in the SCC in phase number 3, our first set goes the full distance between some of these EU teams. It will be the Horus solo this time around, so you're not going to have to worry about Terra trying to struggle clearing at least over in the solo lane for now. But talk to me a little bit about this composition. You're not the biggest fan, at least of adapting with this Naja that the Highland Ravens have drafted. What are some of the weaknesses that this comp has compared to the Ferrymen?
So Naja itself is a pretty strong pick right now, and we are seeing the same start that we've seen for the rest of the game. Mid, jungle at the red buff, going to go over to speed buff. What Naja doesn't do is kind of what you want your jungler to do for the most part. Naja can get in there, ultimate up, and set up for your team. Very team-oriented. Sure, a potion, a unruly magic can be landing off of the ultimates. The Windfire Wheels will do a lot of damage on its own, but there's not going to be a lot of space creation. The Horus solo can provide a boom off the 2 and then a lift off the 1, and that's his kit for a few more seconds. There's not a lot of creation. The Terra can only do so much on high cooldowns. What I'm worried about for the Ravens in this draft is that they're just going to be very segmented off of what the Ferrymen can do. Ratatosker ult is going to be forcing them back. The Nemesis ult is going to be forcing tanks back. Yu Huang itself is a god that plays so well off of knowing where your enemy is going to be, and if they're always going to be forced back, hey, you're Yu Huang. Here are some dragons in your face. Fafnir is a great pick for Rotwin because it provides just a little bit of CC through the hammer, but the space creation off of Dragon Form, off of the abilities in Dragon Form, does so much late game. If the Styx Ferrymen can make it to about 20 to 25 minutes, I would say this game is theirs.
We'll see if the Ferrymen can push it that far. If history's any indication, we should, considering Game 1 went 48 minutes, Game 2 went 30. But Game 2 is where we saw the first real significant lead get built early on. In Game 1, we were sitting around 1,000 to 1,500 gold maybe for about the first 20 or so minutes. Game number 2, completely different story. We were 10 minutes in, nearly 5,000 gold up, at least that the Ravens were able to amass off the back of adapting on that Ratatosker previously. We'll see how he does with the Naja. As you say, is the talk of the town right now. The buff to that ultimate really seems to have put him right back at the forefront of every jungler's mind.
Yeah, everyone likes playing Naja, and I won't even disagree. I like playing Naja. Fun God Sash. Witcha! Pow! And then you kick someone. Do like 100,000 billion damage if you have crits. If you're playing support like me, like 14.
Yeah.
Whatever. Your
No
ultimate
joke.
does even less, but who cares about ultimates? Level 2 is where we will find our dual lane solo, find streak up, but hey, you get a sprint, you can get out of there, and that's what it's going to be like very early. We didn't see too much of this Game 1, but with a Cupid pick against you as Freya, you're going to find a lot of trouble. You're going to find a lot of pressure forced in your face. Operation is survive right now for Streak Up. Make it to that late game, and you will be boxing with Cupid. You could 1v2 against this duo pretty well, but right now, you need to let yourself simmer, build up what you can, confirm what you can, and do your best to survive. That's Operation right now.
That's definitely the name of the game for Streak Up, is just make it through the early laning, wait till all the 2v2ing is done, wait till you get maybe an item or two online, then we can see how you can box up against Coast. A fight for the Scepter.
Okay, buddy.
Almost goes to Rotwin, but he had jumped in. A stun, and slows are good.
Ooh.
Double whoop from Streak Up will not only catch the dash of Silence, but will stop them in their tracks and keep that fight from extending any further. Good play by Streak Up on the Freya.
I'm loving what Streak Up does on this. Even from Game 1, he had some amazing whoops. He had great positioning. He had great play on the Freya. If he continues that into Game 3, I think he will find success. He just needs to make sure, don't lose too much pressure early. The entire Styx Ferrymen roster doesn't have the most pressure in game early, right? The Horus will out-pressure you. The Naja has the speed to keep up with the Nemesis this time around. Baba Yaga is going to be building passive anyway against a Yu Huang. It's a pretty stalematey passive lane anyway, but the Terra Cupid is where that big swing and pressure goes. Anywhere they go, they're going to want to probably fight on the Raven side. If they have a lead anywhere, you're going to see a Terra there. You're going to see trying to force that aggression. Ice is looking here, but adapting is right around the corner. Neither solo laner is really winning this, and we'll see how this fight goes.
It's level 5 for Ice, uses it, but it's going to be too little too late for Azriel, as he got baited into the fight a little too early, and it's the Highland Ravens who strike first blood. The kill going over to adapting this time.
Very smart by adapting. What Ice kind of went for was that Nemesis doesn't have the most fighting potential until level 5. That ultimate does a lot of things for it. Gives her prots, reduces enemy prots, slows enemies. It's kind of a crazy ability. So he was building up for that. In the meantime, adapting was like, hey, I got a Sash, I got a ring toss, and they don't got a solo laner anymore. Bada bing, bada boom. That's how it's going to go. And in a lane like this, you have Assassin, you have Warrior, you have, well, I mean, Horus is a Warrior as much as, Kabrakan is a Guardian. It's depending on what you want to do with it. But a first blood this early in that solo lane is going to spell a lot of trouble. You're going to need jungle assistance to make sure that your blue buff doesn't get invaded. You're going to need a lot of help clearing out your waves every now and again, confirming Totem of Ku. Solo side pressure is great for the Ravens because now they have an opening, the chink in the armor of the Ferrymen. They have a weakness spotted out, and it is this lower leveled rat.
Now for Kana on this Horus, we do see starting the Warrior's Axe into the Golden Blade. That's going to give him plenty of clear. But with the rise of Manticore spikes, the rise of the Fey Blessed Hoops, we've seen a couple instances where players in the SPL were double picking those ones up, especially on gods that provide decent CC and heal. Do you think that's a viable route for Kana to take to pick up both the hoops and the spikes?
Absolutely. I think Horus is a very versatile god in the solo lane because of what you can do with it. This auto attack fight in ADC lane is what we're looking at, though, as Streak Up is going to have to ult out of a little bit of heart bomb damage, but he'll be okay at the end of it all. However, the same cannot be said for the Scorpion of the Styx Ferrymen. 4 people grouping up for it, getting that neutral farm and securing it. But I will not forget what you were asking me about. Horus very good in solo, versatile, build options galore. You can have a lot of things. I really like this Haddix-esque style of going the Golden Blade first, getting your clear up, but not only does it affect your clear, when you you get a free swing auto attack, right? That also gets Golden Blade. When you use your one, like we just see, that Wind Gust, everything it hits has the Golden Blade passive on it too. It is wonderful for your farm as a Horus, just in general, from any lane to jungle camps. You will be doing a lot more damage to minions and a lot more damage to your lane opponent.
You can see how much Azrael has lost in the small little trade down. If I'm him, I'm probably not sticking around too much. Ult is available to the Rat. And as long as that 1-2 combo is down from Kana, it's not much that he can really do to go for that kill. Instead, he'll heal up the wave. Just make it a little bit more annoying for Azrael. No teleport available to the Rat means it's going to be a long walk back for Azrael. Unless he wants to ult in. Silenced. Might get to use his ult during this fight, but we'll hold on to it for now as pressure put onto him by the mid and the support of the Styx Ferrymen. And a fight on towards adapting. Heal is good. But Rodwin's wrapping around the backside. The dunk in by Azrael towards adapting. Stun gonna be enough to hold them back. The wall's not even used during that one. Instead, to jump in by Rodwin. The dueling dragons do a lot of damage. Can Kana get out and take his team? Yes, he will. And no blood spilled, at least during the fight in the jungle.
That was a very extended fight, and you really want to be on top of that if you're the Styx Ferryman. You get a little bit of action in your side of the jungle, catching him out in that adapting, having to displace himself so far, ultimate out, sash out. He has to do so much to get distance away from the enemy here in the Styx Ferryman. They had such a high opportunity to get the kill. Yu Huang damage should have been more higher. It should have been higher to get the kill. Realistically, both these mid laners going into this Warlocks build, they're stacking up damage, they're building up gold. It's going to take a while before something like that can result in a actual win, a kill, anything positive for the Styx Ferryman. But it's good presence. Showing up, being there, and being on top of things in terms of getting your jungle invaded is going to do great things in terms of scaling up into this late game.
Down Highland Ravens with their only one kill so far. We'll have themselves about a 1K gold lead up 8 minutes in. Kind of echoing more so the pacing that we saw in game number 1, where a couple of early scraps don't really lead to a whole lot. We did get a first blood a little bit sooner this time around, but not many more kills to be had beyond there. And Kana not actually going in towards an earring just yet. Instead, started up into that silver breastplate to get a little bit of extra physical defense built up. Going against that double assassin over, at least in his lane for now, but probably needs to get some magic defense. He's going against triple magical when we come to these late game team fights.
So the thing about Horus is that he has great combo potential in that 2-1, right? It's the dash, the swing, the lift, the auto attack, and he might get a kill. It's going to be Azrael's fine, but being able to spam those abilities with the 20% cooldown that Breastplate of Valor does give you means that you can spam that a lot more often. You get a lot more damage out. You can get a lot more kills. And one was just definitely avoided by that whoop. Streak Up definitely caught out. You can see those wards, both of them kind of spinning around each other there in that little bottom left pocket. Spotted out by Streak Up. That is a key to success if you are trying to play passive, play to scale. Ward your jungle. Ladies and gentlemen, breaking news, having vision on the enemy will stop you from being killed by the enemy. Big brain explosion. You are welcome for the pro tip. Only find that here on the SPL broadcast or SCC broadcast, you know.
Yeah, we won't tell you to ward in the SPL broadcast.
No.
Those guys are pros. They don't need the ward. They're just placing them for show at that point. These
yeah.
guys, though, making sure to put them to actual use out here. So Streak Up able to avoid at least maybe losing out on an ultimate or a relic by catching out the dash that came from Silence. That's twice he's been able to do that now so far. These whoops have been impeccable by Streak Up through game 1. Was able to use them as setup for his team. Basically a, here's our target, let's go ahead and kill them.
Oh, he might
now
find one right here.
For defense. Beads gone by Vaporish Coast, half HP on the Cupid, but he'll be fine. Heal up with his hearts. Instead, it'll be the Interceptor going to the Styx Ferryman instead this time.
And you see this wraparound by Ice Slice just barely not getting caught out by adapting Sash. We will see a bit more of eyes turn to this duo lane now with Cupid Beads being down. There's a lot more ability to go onto him, chase him through his ultimate, do some big damage to this little baby, but we're not looking at a baby, we're looking at a Pyromancer. Ice Slice is here to contest, but I don't know if he'll be able to get anything.
Does use the ultimate, And an ult from Azrael as well, so that's 2 ults burned by the Assassins. That gets them away from the Pyromancers, so Styx Ferrymen do their job. They stop the neutral objective from going to the Ravens. They slow them down and keep that gold from spiraling ever further, potentially, at least, towards the Ravens. But Azrael's definitely not having fun in the direct lane matchup. The healing from Kana keeping himself topped off, the CC and the raw damage that this horse is putting out has made Azrael not have the funnest time on this Ratatasker so far.
Yeah, the horse definitely exudes a ton of just lane pressure. You see this too, the swing, the combo, boom. He has Golden Blade. He doesn't need those abilities to clear the wave. He can use that to solely hit Azrael right now and just bully this man like me in high school, dude. This is insane amounts of pressure. Just, he walking up to the tower. He's hitting the tower because Azrael can't do much about it. He's hitting you. This is a kill.
That's a, wow.
See ya.
Yeah, just under the tower, breastplate enough to tank it up, and easy 1-2 combo, or in this case a 2-1 combo, twice is enough to take down Azrael, and no real sustain on this Ratatasker. Does have the Soul Eater, but isn't really getting a whole lot of value from it just yet. Easy pick for Kana, puts him at 101.
Yeah, and that's going to do great things, but Horus kind of doesn't scale like that. This is his strongest point, about 10 to, I would say about 17 minutes realistically, is where he's going to be doing the most damage. He's going to be bullying out the most. Late game, he's going to transition more into the setup guy. He's going to shred prots with the 2. Yes, that not only does a ton of damage, gives you a free auto, but shreds protections if you didn't know. The Wind Gust, that's about 3 seconds off of the lift to the 2. 3 seconds of just hitting a target and CCing them, locking them down. He's going to be the guy. This Kana on Horus is just going to be looking at a target, lifting them, and hopefully his team can provide enough damage to kill them at the end of it all.
Kana misses the stun that time with the dash. We'll be fine. It'll just be a fight in the lane. Streak up. We'll take the Fields of Love. No worries there. No need to use a relic because he doesn't see himself in any real danger. His support on the way to help him out. Kana on the Horus. I'm curious as to where his third item will go, because he went into his damage, his clear for the wave, went into his defense to deal with the double assassin. The question is, does he go into one of these earrings, pick up either the Feyblast or the Manticore, either of them could be an option, or does he just go and avoid them entirely? I mean, I imagine that those are decent items that he could abuse pretty well for himself. Adapting being abused in the jungle, that's a beads, that's an
yes,
Aegis,
sir.
And that's a damage from Hawk. Finding the pick on to Adapting. Silence stunned out, half HP, finds the dash. The second one to get out. The Styx Ferrymen now on the board.
That Cultivate Dow did so much damage reaching forward. It caught the it caught the Naja ultimate. He went as far as he could with it, made the damage come out, and boom, you still land on this Cultivate Dow, and he cultivated a kill in addition to that Dow. Great damage at the start because he also used his ultimate, the Dueling Dragons, sent it out through the Naja, doing tons of damage, finished it up. Great catch on this Adapting. Naja cannot be caught out like that. As we see right now, it's turning into pressure on the Gold Fear. Silence gets picked up, and I don't think he's going down safely.
Didn't end up whooping the dash this time, so Silence will be able to get out. Home Sweet Home by Angry pushes Ice out. Gold Fury looked at by the Ferryman, but not going to be done just because of the pressure that was put in by Silence and Angry. So at least delaying an objective in their regard now, but even with that kill going to the Ferryman earlier, if you look up at the gold charts, I mean, we're still sitting nearly 2K for the Ravens, and with a whoop off the mark, Coast would be fine on this Khepri. Instead, we'll turn a fight back over towards it. 2K gold, 2K XP up for the Highland Ravens.
So where this 2K gold is coming from, and this is very important, it's literally coming in this dual lane. Vaporish Coast, you can see him right now with Indra Scepter, right? That means he has so much lane pressure over a Freya itself. There's tons of neutral camp clear that is coming out for Highland Ravens. He's able to clear the castle creeps, the Chad Harpies, everything in far between in dual lane is his. Not only that, you have Kana, who's doing a ton of damage, literally gets a solo kill under tier 1 tower, but that gold kind of dilutes itself now that Ratatasker is 0-2. So, if that means Freya is behind, Freya is behind. Take advantage of that if you are the Ravens. Vaporish Coast is absolutely massive in comparison. He may only be a level up, but the damage and the gold that he should have in hand is going to be paramount right now in terms of what Streak can do. Freya is hard to rotate with. It's hard to find in the jungle, and oh my goodness, this is... It's distracting my thoughts completely because that's absolutely criminal that Kana can get away with this. He does ult out just to pure safety. Yeah, he's going to go back in on the wave. He's not scared of anything right now, but Freya is going to be scaling into late game. The longer you let this kind of just passively farm and streak up, the worse it's going to get. Right now, if you have a huge swing, abuse it if you can. Highland Ravens should be looking to rotate into mid, rotate into Pyro, get Gold Furies, get anything off the map, including towers, because this is your best chance.
Dragons down now for Hawk. He used them to try and push Angry out of the tower, but Angry will be just fine on the Baba Yaga. Level 15 between both the mid laners. Keeps them rather even, but even with absolutely nothing happening on the map in the mid lane, Angry, just by nature of his passive, goes for that Charon's coin yet again. Second item already has 3 stacks on it. We'll make sure to get a full usage out of that one as he continues to play out this slower paced early game. Much more to the tune of what we saw in game number 1, except this time it's the Highland Ravens who are the ones with the advantage, where in game number 1 it was Styx Ferrymen who were kind of leading that early charge. So for the Ferrymen, I'll pose this over to you, Billy. Where do the Ferrymen kind of make their mark? Where do they finally kind of draw a line in the sand and really start to bring this game back to themselves?
So the answer to that is kind of found where they've found themselves in their comp, right? You have a Ratatosker, you have Nemesis. Where is your engage going to be? Is it going to be off of Nemesis ulting someone and us just W keying in and going off of that? Is it going to be off of Ratatosker, knocking someone up, forcing movement, Nemesis flanks and chase? Is it going to be off of Fafnir providing backline peel and we play counter engage? Depending on how we want to play that, and this Pyro scuffle is going to go pretty well in the favor of Styx Ferrymen should they stick to it, but it looks like we might just drop it. No, we are fighting. Icelands blinks in and we are going ham.
Dragons used, double root. The Dragons will push Silenced away at least for now. Up on the tree is Azrael, but there are 4 people around. He's not going to dunk back in there. And with 3 ults used by the Styx Ferrymen, not a whole lot of chance to steal Pyro away, but Ravens aren't going to keep up with this Pyromancer. So that's the 3rd time now that it has been thwarted away from them. Twice it was Ice walking over and just ulting one person. This time, a little team fight broke out. No one dies, though.
So this is kind of a good example of what I like to call wave priority. In both mid and right lane, the Styx Ferrymen had wave priority. Mid lane was sending a wave into tower. Solo lane was sending a wave into tower. The Highland Ravens were going to lose so much XP if they stick to this Gold Fury. And because of that, that's where Styx Ferrymen turn, and they go Gold Fury. They take it off the map, or they're about to take it off the map. Vapor's Coast does put up a good fight, but 1v3, sorry, buddy, not for me. It's great play and great map awareness from the Styx Ferrymen. They're forcing issues where they can, trying to get back into this game, playing off of their weak foot even. Streak Up should not be in this contention. He's 1 level down, 17 to 18, so that's a decent chunk of XP, but he is the one that they're making plays around right here on the Styx Ferrymen, and that is great. If we take this to 20, this game's going crazy.
Miss Sash by adapting just earlier in the jungle means that, at least for the Ferrymen, they'll be just fine. Angry tosses out a potion, doesn't find a home with it. Instead, he'll be sit right under the tier 1 tower, just continuing to get that passive farm, those passive stacks back up towards his Charon coin. While 6 Ferrymen slowly close back up that gold lead. Only 1,500 between the two, 19 minutes in. Effectively nothing at this point. I mean, 300 gold between the 5 players each out there means looking at a couple of wards in pocket, maybe a tier 1 item or 2 that are separating this team as a whole. So the Styx Ferrymen are definitely doing a great job of at least stemming the bleeding, holding out towards the Highland Ravens. Because when we get to the late game, we know the damage output that Yu Wong has, and Streak Up showed us in game number 1 just what a Freya can do.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not concerned at all if the Styx Ferrymen have the damage. What I'm concerned about is, are they going to be able to hit it? The setup right now that they're playing off of is just Fafnir running in, and the only real CC outside of Hammer is Ratatosker, just by itself, either stunning with the acorns or landing on someone with an ult. They're going to need to be hard W King off of either a failed engage or off of a pick, maybe with even a whoop. That's something that they can go off of, but it's going to be a little tough, so they're being very smart by playing their time here. Finding out what's going to be used, what their engage is going to be on the side of the Ravens so that they can either best counter it or they can go ahead and take the initiative with Ice, run in there and get going in whatever team fight may be. With both objectives down, now is the time to either get neutral farm or get picks. We can see both teams kind of looking for it, both in mid and duo respectively, but they're playing safe. They're making sure that they're not the ones to fall victim, because one pick here, one waste of neutral farm could spell the end of it all.
Potential pick onto Vapor's Coast, and I say potential because he's not going to be, even though there were 3 players completely diving in towards that tier 1.
Watch this gank.
Ultimate out of Streak Up used, and that's a perfect call for Silence. He'll dash in, finds the stun onto Streaka. Meanwhile, in the jungle, Adapting is taking a 1v1 of his own. 3v3 in the left lane. Goes back through. Vapor's Coast finds the first kill of the fight. Adapting gets the ultimate up onto Ice. Ice will take him up into the sky. It needs one more hit back on the ground, and it'll be the Sash that finds the final shot there. But damage onto Angry, not quite enough. Rotwin will leap out instead of in to try and get Angry. And it is a 2-for-0 trade for the Highland Ravens.
That was just the six Ferrymen being a bit overzealous with what they think they could get. Cupid has a lot of self-peel, a bit more than you would typically think. Adapting is actually losing pretty substantial amounts of health. Beazrael will dash and get the auto, and hey, that's a red buff and a kill here for the Styx Ferrymen, getting a little respite from what was a pretty bad dive here on that tier 1 tower. Cupid beads, ultimate, dash goes about 2 football fields worth of length. He's able to keep himself safe. Terra, Angry, and Adapting all come over from mid lane. Duo lane becomes a war zone, and everyone on the Styx Ferrymen falls. Adapting does get caught out on that jungle, so that is an upside, a little upswing, because he's huge. 2-1 on Naja is, at least in a game with a total of 6 kills, very strong.
DC. Dash by Kana still onto Azrael. Solo kill, very unlikely to happen now on that right side. Definitely will need some assistance from Ice. And as the build goes through, it won't be any of the earrings for Kana, at least not now. Could maybe sell that Golden Blade later on if he decides to no longer need that one. Typically only used there, at least for that early clear. Has instead gone for Genji's and a Caduceus shield. We haven't seen Cat shield kind of pop itself back up in a while.
Chad shield, mind you. Chad shield, because only Chads can buy it. It's only in the store for Chads. If you see it, congrats. Yeah, so all it does is increase your healing. And why is this good right now? Look at the builds on the Styx Ferrymen. We only have 2 anti-heal items. We have the 3, excuse me, I forgot about Contagion. 3 in total, so we have Brawlers, Divine, Contagion. That means that there's going to be a good spread of anti-heal. So what Horus does is not only provide protections with his 3, well, I guess most people didn't know that. It's the heal and the proc give, right? So increasing his healing, increasing the healing that you can get from the Naja 2, increasing the healing you get from Terra, increasing the healing you get from Cupid Hearts. It does a lot. It'll add up, and sure, 20% isn't the most, but when you have so much anti-heal to kind of scatter about on the other team, it's a good bit to heal up.
Dueling Dragons used, not going to find a home. As a 2v1 on the right-hand side, as the mid lane scuffle ends up completely fizzling out right away. The transformation from Rotwin is enough to keep the Ravens out. Instead, they've turned their attention towards the Pyromancer.
Gold Fury on the other side.
Nice pick up there, but Oni Fury for Streak Up and Rotwin, but Fire Giant potentially
Ambitious.
for the Highland Ravens. Ice is here. Hawk doesn't have ultimate. Ice doesn't have much health left, but neither does Kana. Has to dash back to his team. Up
Going
on the
up.
tree is Azrael. Best chance for him to steal this one away, but he doesn't go for the steal. Instead, he goes for the fight, and he is doing all right in the fight until we have the home sweet home come out from Angry. The firebolts are dealing a lot of damage to the Ratatosker. Not quite enough. Heart Bomb will finish the job. Streak up in the sky, but back on the ground. A crash in from Silence, catches 2 with the root. Rotwin tries to run away, but Hawk does not have very far to go. Uses the Aegis, but he'll lose his life at the end.
Little too much from the Ferrymen there. They wanted to kind of posture in but not fully commit, but then Beazrael was like, oh, I can ult onto their backline. It didn't look great, and neither does this 1v1. Ice is falling low. He will have to expend the ult as the trades come out. Sash should be up in just a second here. Finding it would mean a kill for Adapting. The slow means Adapting will not find the Sash around the corner, but who cares about a kill when you're getting a bird in the meantime? 4 are pushing down mid, and I think they might be going for an end.
Could be. 15 seconds till Azrael and Streak Up are up.
Ice
It's
is
4v1, 4v none. Now with Ice coming back through, brings it back to being a 4 versus 1, but that Titan is down to a quarter HP.
5
Does
seconds.
Ice have the damage? No, he does not. Adapting shows up, and that is curtain call for the Styx Ferrymen. 25 minutes of play. Each game getting a little bit faster, and it's the Highland Ravens who come out at the end with the 2-1.
And I'll be honest, I feel like I want more. That was a little anticlimactic.
It just kind of ended.
For they just said that is like the textbook snowball to end the game. 1 kill staggered, 2 kills staggered, 3 kills staggered off of a Fire Giant bait from the bet. Like, It wasn't. It was never intentionally a fire giant. They knew Goldfear on the other end was being pulled. The Ravens did, and so they're like, "Hey, if they have 2 over there, 3 over here, let's bait them in. Pretend we're doing fire giant. Get a kill. Get another kill. Get fire giant. Kill the bird. Kill the Titan. We won the game. What the heck happened?"
Yeah, I mean, it's not even like they needed to pretend to do the fire giant. They just did the fire giant. Azrael goes up onto the tree, dunks down a little too late for a steal, so instead tries to go for the fight, loses majority of his health bar, and then from that point on, trickle effect downward. He goes down, carry goes down, mid laner gets staggered out there, and then, well, they can just run it right down and end the game. Highland Ravens, 25 minutes in game number 2, or game number 3, 30 minutes in game number 1. Almost in the 2 games that it took them to win is what it took the Ferrymen to win their very first one. I mean, we were pushing near 50 minutes in the first one, and we can take a look at some of the highlights, some of the stats at least coming up from that 3rd game there. And it's going to be a little scattered across the board. I mean, Adapting is able to find a couple of picks throughout, but really the entirety of the Highland Ravens stepping up to find it as this first blood was just slightly unfortunate timing by Eyesight. Something you mentioned, once he's at level 5, he wants to get in there, kind of sneak his way, but by the time he snuck into the fight, his teammate was dead.
Yeah, and it kind of trails back to this solo kill that we're watching right now. When Kana was able to get this kill, what that showed me was that solo lane was lost. Ravens had full control of this solo-sided pressure, so if you are forcing plays on that duo side, you have to be aware of what's happening on solo side. They committed far too much to that fire giant. If you just let it down, you might lose tier 2s at the most, but you lost the game off of trying to contest it, and you failed. I don't want to say miserably, but you guys all died, and then you lost the game. So pretty miserably, to be honest. I mean, this is just a kind of a testament to how well this game, or both of these teams kind of shot called. It was a smart decision to be going Goldfear when Pyromancer, when Fire Giant was getting pulled by the Styx Ferrymen. That was not a bad call at all, but once you get going, you have to give up solo side. You didn't. You stuck around too long, got caught out, and then one by one, you guys fell until it ended on your Titan.
Yeah, I mean, it was a classic. We saw it all throughout at least the early to mid portion of that game. Once Pyromancer spawned in, a couple of players from Highland Ravens start up Pyro. And then Ice would show up and say, hey, no Pyro for you yet. Hold on a little bit. It happened 2, maybe 3 times. Then finally, Highland Ravens got a chance to grab the Pyromancer. And they realized, well, I guess we can just do the Fire Giant. They hear the Gold Fury sound on the other side of the map. And make that commit there. Highland Ravens able to find that win at the end of the day.
Kana dropped a 21 burger on their heads, my dude.
That's pretty good.
That is 3 people on the Styx Ferrymen, jungle, support, ADC, less than 10k damage, and Kana drops the 21 burger. That's too much damage. He had no way to stop. There was no answer to Kana's Horus at the end of it. And by the end of the game, it was far and away in the favor of the Ravens.
I mean, in fact, trying to do the quick math without going into all of the extra nitty-gritties, I saw a 9K, a 6K, and a 4K in there. And Kana outdid all 3 of them combined.
Oh, yeah.
It just outshined the jungle and the entirety of the duo lane on his own. But that's it for set number 1 of our day. We'll take a look at the schedule to see what else we have in store for the EU SCC for the remainder of our day and the remainder of our weekend. With a 2-1 by the Highland Ravens, they start out phase number 3 with a nice little win of their own. We'll go over into the Gilded Gladiators and Aru Scorpions for our second EU set of the day. And for the last of the EUs, they won't play today. Instead, they'll play tomorrow morning to open up our Friday Hex Mambo, where at least the champions in phase number 2, the only team to move on to the second week of play out of the SCC in the SMITE Summer Masters event. So essentially consider these guys kind of the champions of the entire SCC out there, at least for now. And they'll be facing off against the Niflheim Wargs again. That will be tomorrow at 11 a.m. First set done. Aru Scorpions, Gilded Gladiators up. Roster shakeups kind of across the board in the EU region. Very curious to see how it's going to affect these next 2 teams that are coming up, Billy.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see the Scorpions play. Big Preds fan, big fan of all the supports in the EU pretty much, and I really want to see how these teams develop, how this little do-si-do of players all around really change these teams up, how it's going to be looking in the future, and what that means for the Hex Mambo, who are one of the only teams in the SEC in general that kind of stuck together. So we'll see if their reign continues or if there's a new kid on the block.
We'll have to see how the Gilded Gladiators and the Aru Scorpions can step up and square off. That's going to be coming up after this break, so stick around and we'll be right back for our second set.
Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the SCC day number 1 of phase number 3, set number 2 here in Europe. And a lot of fun, I think, that is still to be had. Granted, we just got 3 really fun games back to back to back here in Europe, keeping things competitive. So now I'm just interested in what we will continue to see in this region both today and tomorrow. It's Gormizer, it's Trelly, and we are moving into the Gladiators taking on the Scorpions. As J-Mac had said to you not too long ago. And again, I'm excited for this one. A lot of roster changes that came through pretty much everywhere in the SCC. I think there was like 2 teams that were untouched, maybe 3, if I can remember just off the top of my head from that video this morning and things like that. And so the question is going to be, Trelly,
Yes.
what we can expect out of this one, because we've been having a lot of fun with Europe. Granted, usually things, I think it's funny because there was very much a very, oh, right, Europe moment for me earlier today. And so we'll see how this one ends up shaking out with the Gladiators, right? Again, a couple of changes that come through. A team that, though, otherwise has looked, it's really interesting. Solid, yet sometimes not as solid as maybe they would like to be.
Yeah, I guess that could be the word you want to describe it. If you're not on top, if you're not, I guess, in phase number 2, Hex Mambo, there was some learning curves to have, and I guess that was the reason for all of these roster swaps. It shows me that these teams aren't, they're not comfortable with sitting by. They don't want to just mosey on through the league. They're trying to go for that number 1 spot. They want their shot at Worlds, that sort of thing. So I'm assuming that's the reason that we saw this sort of mini roster apocalypse in both SCCs, not just NA and EU, just all of them together. But still, a very strong team, and I think a talented group of gamers here. Just off the back, just looking at the jungle, Maskill has had some crazy performances throughout all of these phases, right? I mean, I believe multiple pentakills already, which is kind of absurd considering how tightly knit this EU SCC has been as of recent. It's just like the standings are never consistent, right? You never know, again, unless you were like Hex Mambo last split, who's going to be taking the games off of each other. It's going to be an exciting phase 3 as we go into the road to Worlds for these teams.
Yeah, and again, I'm excited for this one, mainly because, like you said, even though there's been moving parts around this team, Mastkill was one of the things. I remember when we started watching them, even before they had their names, like the Gilded Gladiators, things like that, I guess franchised for us. Mastkill was like the one everyone was like, okay, you gotta watch this guy. You gotta, like, that's the key, that's the ticket in. And he did not disappoint. I think actually this year, I'd have to go back and double check, but I'm pretty sure the very first SCC game we had this year started with a Mastkill Pentic. So it's pretty fun when you have them on the team. Excited to see what the Gladiators are going to do. They're taking on the Scorpions, though. And again, the Scorpions, they kind of remind me of the Sages, the Athenian Sages there in North America, where has always been able to put up a fight, sometimes pushing games to 3 sets, or 3 games, I should say, have had really, really good performances, but have definitely had their moments where things weren't clean, right? I mean, definitely not able to rise in the standings, I think, as heavily as they would like, sit up at the top as much as they would like. This last phase was way better than phase number 1 for them. They also had some changes that ended up kind of shaking through. But this is another team that I think, Trelly, I'm pretty excited to see, at least what they can do here against the Gladiators.
Yeah, I think the phrase would be continue to improve. And if that's the case, and it is phase 3, this would be where we get to see some of that improvement really flourish, right? This is where we want to see the fruits of their labor, if you will. And the Aru Scorpions as a team, as you said, Panvich and Davey still staying on the roster, but they picked up Rapio and Gunter now in their roles, so, and Prez also has been staying on. So 2 new additions to the squad at this point, and I think this should be, big names, right, to get picked up this late into the phase. Rapio and Gunter have been performing throughout all of this this season, if you will.
Can't help but notice you didn't mention, I think maybe the most important thing, Preds changing their name to iPreds to match iDavy in the dueling. That's some serious dueling commitment, Trelly.
I didn't even notice that, and that's like the matching flannels. They're showing this how good their duo lane mentality actually is.
And you know what? That's next level. That's how they're look. If you're gonna look at it, you're calling it now. They're the team, right? If someone's gonna come be the upsetter on SPL teams, it's gonna be the guys that are matching over there in the Scorpions. A lot of fun, I think, to be had again between these 2 teams, relatively closely matched up, and has me excited for it. But we're going to actually have to kick it to a quick break, and then when we get back, we'll jump into the Gladiators and the Scorpions.